Hello and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Soup. I am Aaron, the Nerd Soup Monkey, and before we get into today's podcast, I'd like to shout out our sponsor, Loot Crate. So as you can see, we requested a Marvel box, so let's see what's in here. Woohoo! We got some Spider-Man. Spider-Man's the best, man. We got a Spider-Man juice glass. This is actually sick. You got any juice? Apple. Got the juice glass. What else do we got? Spider-Man standee. Oh, that's cute. Look at him. Look at this guy. Spider-Man. Spider-Man. And we got... Oh, this is actually sick. Spider-Man t-shirt. Gwen Stacy pin. Ooh. Let's put that on my lapel. Where's the hat? So, thanks again to Loot Crate for sponsoring today's video and sending us all this cool stuff. And if you want your own Loot Crate, head to the description box below. Use promo code NERDSOUP for 15% off. And they have things like Harry Potter, Pixar, Marvel, Deadpool. So there's pretty much a crate out there for anybody. So check it out and cheers. Bo still didn't get me my juice yet.
Thanks again, Eric.
Beer this time.
Yeah, I actually bought Guinness recently, but they don't last long. Not in this house.
All right, I'm on the water.
Yeah, me too.
I have an interesting story why. I can tell you on record. Look at us drinking water. All of our mothers would be proud.
And tea.
You're so British.
Sponsored tea?
Oh, it's a sponsored tea.
No, it's not sponsored tea. Actually, it's just regular old tea.
I cut that out.
Yeah, no free ads. All right, I'll bring us in.
Do it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Soup Podcast. I am Bo Oliver, your host, joined here today with Aaron, the Nerd Soup Monkey, and our friend of the channel for a long time, Eric Nolan, veteran actor.
Hey.
I think we could say veteran actor at this point, who's appeared on Game of Thrones and
Yeah,
Vikings.
if you're a liar.
And this is actually the second time that we've recorded this interview. So the first round was a good warm up for all of us to kind of get used to each other. And what's a shame is the biggest shame of losing that interview is that I feel like we were all so good. Me and Aaron were good hosts. You were a great guest.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was phenomenal.
Honestly, I don't even want to talk anymore. It's the way I answer those questions. I cried 3 times. Aaron cried. We all cried. And then someone just wasn't recording it. So
yeah, we'll keep that under wraps.
Let's blame Teddy.
Yeah, that's
like
usually
the secret Game of Thrones pilot. The original
Right,
pilot
right.
that has never been shown. That's
Yeah.
what the original podcast will be. We'll release it in 25 years.
right. Yeah, or we'll put it on Patreon for anyone who wants to pledge and get a chance to to look at me and Eric talking.
Anybody
while
want to pay
Aaron's-
extra?
Right, for the for the not official recording. Well, Eric, like I said, it's great to finally have you on here, and a good way to start is just, I think, by introducing yourself to the audience. Talking about how you found yourself to be working on Game of Thrones and appearing in so many iconic episodes and battles. I know I'm familiar with your origin story, but I'm pretty sure our audience is going to love to hear it. So you could start by that little introduction.
Origin story. Well, basically, my uncle Ben got shot outside a
Outside of a Game of Thrones casting
basically-
studio.
No, so when obviously introducing me as a veteran actor, no, not at all. Not a single class. Don't go to class, kids. I just grew a beard. And that was it. Obviously, some people can't do that, but that's how I got into it. So when I was studying music in college, one of the guys I studied with lives in a little town called Ashford in Wicklow, and Ashford is home to the TV show Vikings. So the guy that I went to school with was like, hey, they're looking for guys with beards and long hair or whatever. And when he told me about it, I didn't have this long of hair or this long of a beard. It was all like ear length and like, let's say a beard like Aaron's. And then all of a sudden when they tell me, oh, you should just not change your appearance. I didn't know anybody in the TV industry. I didn't know that I could get a bit of a haircut. So I just got afraid to change my appearance. So I just let my hair grow, my beard grow, and now I look like Jesus. So when I was working on Vikings, because a lot of the guys, they do extra work as a hobby just to get away from their families. They do it as a full-time job if they're good enough, if they've got enough kind of roles and certain things to go. And a lot of the guys were going from Vikings in October of 2014. So it was like season 3 of Vikings is when I started. In October of 2014, they all got cast in Game of Thrones as wildlings. And I was just like, yo, I love that show. How did you get there? And obviously they led me to the casting agencies that does the casting for Game of Thrones. Like obviously it's the background casting, the extras casting. And I signed up and I got a call a few days later and they said, hey, we want you to be a wildling. And I was like, sick. And then the first episode that I worked on was the episode of Hard Home, which it's like when I worked on Vikings, I didn't watch the show before I started working on it. But then as soon as I got told like, oh, hey, next Friday you're filming, I watched all 2 seasons because I didn't want to bump into somebody and like, you know, it's 5 a.m. I might go like, hey, fuck you, buddy. And then it turns out it's the writer and I get sent home forever. So I tried to like, you know, educate myself on who's going to be around. But obviously being a massive fan of Game of Thrones, as soon as I'm on the set of Game of Thrones, anything I see, I'm a total fanboy. I'm losing my mind, you know? And because I didn't really know many people, I knew maybe 10 or 20 of the 300 people that they had on the set. I'd be like, oh my God, shit, you see that? And it's like, see what? I don't watch this show. And I'm like, oh, fuck you then. So, because obviously I know to people listening now, like, yeah, I cut my left hand off just to be in Game of Thrones, but people did it just to, because it was their local area of, you know, they lived in Belfast. Hey, what's going on? Oh, let's work on this TV show. They had already worked on like Dracula Untold was also filmed in Northern Ireland. So that's where they kind of, some of the guys started their little kind of background acting career. And then obviously Game of Thrones changed the game completely, being one of the biggest shows in the world. And like, it's insane to have it on a CV, you know, where it's, people are like, holy shit, you were on Game of Thrones. Where obviously I was on Game of Thrones. I was in Game of Thrones. I can walk down the street and no one gives a shit. But certain things will be like, if I'm in an area where Game of Thrones is, you know, being mentioned, people will be like, oh, no way. And obviously you're going to mention it to people. I'm not going to flaunt it around the place. Not anymore, I'm not. Yeah, I was in all the episodes you guys hated. Like, really?
Made a season regular
yeah, so,
in season 8.
No, just say just talk about the good ones. Like, yeah, Hard Home. No, yeah, I missed the Long Night. I actually wasn't in that one. Don't worry about it. Or you could just pick all the good ones you were in.
Well, I mean,
those are the ones you could talk
like
about.
I'm in, you know, if you want to go statistics, which is something that obviously the internet fucking loves nowadays, talking about how much IMDb has rated how shit it is. I'm in the highest rated episode of Game of Thrones and the lowest episode of Game of Thrones. So boom, there you go.
I call that consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe if they had you in some of those lesser episodes, those IMDb scores would have jumped up. What is the highest rated Game of Thrones? Is it still Battle of the Bastards?
Yeah, I think it's Battle of the Bastards or Hard Home or Winds of Winter, whatever it is. I'm in it. That's all that matters. Franchise Viagra.
Do you have a particular favorite episode that you worked on? I mean, coming onto the show and working on Hard Home your first day, that must have just been, like you said, being a fan of the show, you're starstruck. You know, you're working on a show that you've only watched up until this point. But do you have a favorite battle of yours that you know, maybe as an episode or also that you just enjoyed working on?
The time we spent doing the long night it's like that thing of, oh, I know everyone who did it because we did so many days. and we all went through the shit. I think I seen one of the questions on Twitter was like, what was the coldest day on set? When we filmed parts of The Long Night, it was right in the north of Ireland, and there was a storm called the Beast in the East, which is a Siberian snowstorm that was supposed to land in Siberia, but due to the winds at the time, probably from America, I don't know how the world works, but it ended up in Ireland. And
blame the US.
It was the usual, the usual kind of, it was the coldest winter for 50 years and all sort of stuff. So it was like -5 Celsius, -8 Celsius some nights, -12, like wind chill. And like, for me, I'm a wildling. I got this massive big fur coat on. I've got all my layers underneath the coat. Well, obviously there's multiple roles and factions in Game of Thrones where people were playing refugees from the last hearth, and they're cast as like 65-year-old people plus as old people. Obviously they are old people, and they are poor in the show, so they have rags. They don't have fur coats, and it's -12 degrees Celsius. So you're just literally watching those, people freezing to death. And it's like, yeah, film it. Looks great. They really look like they're about to fucking pass out. So a lot of it was acting, but most of it really was fucking freezing. You know what I mean? And like Miguel Sapochnik, who directed these episodes, he would do little kind of, I don't want to describe them as psychological experiments, but he would definitely fuck with people. Like, for example, when we would do some fighting against the undead, you wouldn't fight one-on-one. So Battle of the Bastards, you'd kind of do a little sequence between 1 and 1. But when it comes to fighting 100,000 undead, we're fighting 5 or 6 other extras who've been cast as the undead. So it's like, you come at me, I kill you, you lay on the ground, Aaron, you count to 3, and after 3, you jump back up and we fight again. But I'm fighting like 5 or 6 people. So obviously it gets tiring, which is perfect because obviously you watch the show and you're swinging a sword and everyone's actually tired. But what Miguel Sapochnik would do is, if we would just come back, let's say Monday we did fighting, Tuesday we did fighting, Wednesday, obviously we're still fighting, but it's Wednesday afternoon and you've had a good few hours sleep and everyone's ready to go. What he would do is he'd have the whole like extras and cast do like jumping jacks. So just before he'd call action, we'd be jumping up and down, jumping up and down, jumping up and down, jumping up and down. And he'd be like, yep, action. And now we've been exercising for the first minute, so we're already fucked. So then it becomes the kind of thing of, let's say me and my friend have worked out, okay, these 2 guys will come over here, we'll push them against the wall, we'll hit them, the camera passes by, we'll do this and that. I'm like, fuck this. Like, I'm wrecked. I'm just pushing this down to the ground and I'm just going to die. You know what I mean? So it made it kind of more dramatic and it adds more kind of chaos to it. And with Battle of the Bastards, they would be very, they wouldn't give us much information, which is understandable. It's one of the biggest shows in the world. And one of the biggest secrets was Jon Snow is alive. Spoiler alert. Sorry, you can bleep that out if it's still 2015.
Still dead in the book.
So nerds. So yeah, he'd still be dead. No, never mind. I won't make that joke. So they would have stunt performers mixed in with extras, but they wouldn't tell you, okay, the stunt guys are over here. And the stunt guys would have like blood packs, like squibs on them. So just to give you an example, we were in the shield wall with all the Boltons and they're kind of crushing us. And there's one thing that, the best thing to make it look like 400 people are being crushed to death. None of us are actors. We're just dudes with beards. So they just really crushed us, because if I really crushed you, you'd react realistically. But if I said, oh, pretend you're getting crushed and you're like making a face and then you look at your mate and he's making a face, you're going to start laughing and you're going to ruin $100,000 shot and you're going to be marched off set and killed. So he would do all these things like for realism kind of, but they had like squibs, like these kind of throat pieces of prosthetic, and the shield wall would open up and a sword would go across and a stuntman would just blow it up and his neck would fucking blow up blood in your face. But you weren't told that was going to happen. You know, you weren't told anything, so you're just kind of reacting, and all of a sudden the dude's fucking neck blows up at you. That's you genuinely going, holy fuck, is this real? You haven't slept for like, you know, 2 weeks properly, so your mind is like, everyone's on edge, you know what I mean? Which is obviously adds to the chaos and the carnage of it. It's just like insane, you know.
Yeah, it certainly adds an element of realism. You often hear that with directors, that they will play these mind games with their cast to trick them into, you know, conveying certain emotions. You know, that the stories of the long night have become just absolutely legendary for how long those days were. And I remember when we were messaging back and forth before or after season 8, and I mentioned the Maisie Williams comment. You know, like that's the hardest I've ever worked on a show, and you were like, please, you know, we were doing 20-hour days. We weren't like the A-listers coming in and, you know, with their trailers.
Well, like they were still in the shit, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing is obviously, you know, they have a much harder job than we do. Like, as much as I just get to hang out with my mates and then do cool shit for Game of Thrones, because obviously I'm a massive fan of the show. So there was no, it was hard, you know, the conditions were hard, the days were long, the food wasn't great when you're, you know, it's 3 a.m, then you're having a full breakfast and then you're not eating for another 6 hours because they have to film a TV show and they don't have time for you to sit down. And me watching a load of new guys, you know, I'm able to eat a chicken breast and vegetables in about 14 seconds because TV industries have taught me that. And we're sitting on the set of Winterfell and they're giving out lunch and this dude's like, oh, sweet lunch, and he's taking dessert and it's 4 a.m. and he's trying to find somewhere to sit down. He gets it down, he gets his cutlery and I was like, okay, we got to get back to work. And he's like, what? And that's it. That man don't eat because he didn't eat his breakfast in 15 seconds, you know? So it's like, the conditions were really bad, but obviously the cast would have, you know, privileges. They would start a little later than us, but they also have to learn their lines, do the same thing, train 6 weeks, 6 months before we even get on set. So it's a good thing because the whole kind of, you know, diva style of actors, or, you know, of the stories across Hollywood in the last, you know, 100 years, when they're in the shit like that, they have no room to be like that. So there wasn't ever someone going, oh well, fuck this, you know what I mean? Everyone was in the shit, you know, which it then becomes the layer of celebrity disappears, you know what I mean? Because
Right.
let's say you take Kit Harington, top paid actor on the show, he can't invent time, like he can't buy time, you know. He has to go home at 7 a.m. and he has to be back in work at 1 p.m. He can't go, here's $1 million, don't film the show today, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's stuff like that, you know, it makes it a lot better. And obviously with the whole kind of family of the cast, you know, there was like 25 of them working that sequence, obviously working, most of them were doing night shoots. I don't know which cast member did the most amount of night shoots. Obviously the director did 55 nights of filming in a row. The cameraman, Fabian Wagner, who is the DOP for the Justice League, he did 55 nights in a row. David Benioff and Dan Weiss, as much as people like to fucking give out about them, they were there all the time. So it's not like they were just, you know, in New York on their laptops, like they were in the shit too. So it's like everyone came together to be in the shit. You know what I mean? So
definitely. And I think that's like, you know, me and Bo don't really hate that episode or the season as much as most people do, but I think that's a lot of that gets lost, I feel like, especially when watching a documentary after the season was wrapped, and watching that documentary and seeing the process and just how much work and time and effort went into just that single episode. It really is incredible to think about. Just, I mean, you were there, so I mean, but just like imagining being in that situation for 55 days straight, I imagine it was just, you know, it was probably a lot of fun too. But I don't know if you would want to do it again.
That's the thing. It's like when people ask, like, what was the hardest day, you know, working on set? I always go back to a day on Battle of the Bastards where I was just done. I just didn't care. You know what I mean? Like I had water up to my fucking, you know, knees. I had more, like my socks were soaking. There was horse piss and shit everywhere. And they were like, okay, let's lie you guys on the ground just for another 10 more hours, you know? And they say it, you know, yesterday that was fine, but today it's like, oh lads, I'm done. I don't care. You know what I mean? And they would have different stages of makeup. So you would have like level 1 is just a bit of dirt, level 2 is dirt and blood, level 3 is like bits missing out of your head but more blood, and then level 4 is you've basically been born, you're covered in blood, level 5 is death. And there were some days we'd go from level 4 and they'd be like, okay, we got to shoot that other scene, clean these guys off. And we clean them off and shoot one more scene. And then we're like, okay, back to level 4. And you're like, why didn't you? You know what I mean? So you'd end up with just shit in your hair. And like you would finish like Battle of the Bastards for the extras. Some of the pickups were like a bus from Belfast City Centre was like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. And you get driven for an hour out to they bought out a factory to basically churn out wildlings and Boltons and Karstarks and Umbers, dress us, feed us, hair, costume, all that sort of stuff. Drive to the actual battlefield, and we would film for maximum daylight, which is at the time like 5 in the morning, get our weapons. As soon as the sunlight is up, you start filming all the way to the sunset, which is like 6 p.m. And they call wrap, and then all of a sudden it's 700 people trying to get off this field, get onto buses, get back to the compound, get out of your costume, get back on a bus, get back to Belfast, get back to your way you're sleeping, and then go asleep because you've got work at 2 in the morning. And by the time you're back in Belfast, it's 8 p.m. And then the world that you haven't been a part of, let's say the real world, has decided that there's a crash on the motorway or there's a concert at the arena. And you're sitting there and it's 2 a.m. that your bus is at, and it's 9 p.m. right now, and you're not even home yet. So and you're covered in horse piss and shit and mud and blood. So you got to go home. So it's like, it was insane, the kind of hours that would be put into it from people. And the documentary is an amazing thing. And the extra that they looked after, that they documented, like Andrew, like well deserved that documentary. Like his story is absolutely amazing, and I'm happy that he can go to like Comic Cons now. Obviously, with the certain situation that's going on in the world, you can't really travel. But when it opens up, I'm hoping that the Reddit universe brings that man around the world so he can tell a story. And obviously, with me, I have a story, and my best friend has a story, and everyone who was there kind of has little stories and stuff like that, And it's fascinating, some of the stuff where like one guy left and they gave him a gift. And I was like, oh my God, that guy got like a cool fucking drinks thing. And one guy turns around to me and was like, I've been here all 8 seasons, but because he wasn't like loud and at people, he just kind of sat back, And I was just like, what? So it's just really fascinating that how it affected everyone in that area in Ireland. Like obviously, and with you guys being in the States, it's like, oh my God, you were in Game of Thrones. But like when you come here, it's like, he was in Game of Thrones, he was in Game, you know what I mean? So it's like going to Georgia. I'm sure everybody's in The Walking Dead over there,
Or the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
It's all the local actors. Mm-hmm. It's like the local business that supports a small town, right? It's Game of Thrones. It's just for all the locals. Mm-hmm. It's funny because we took some questions here that we're going to sprinkle throughout from some of our listeners. And this one is from Josh Kinsella. And he says, where was your favorite place in Ireland when you were shooting here? Josh is a longtime listener from Ireland. And he says, for the Soup Gang, why are you guys sleeping on Vikings? We've been peer pressured to watch that show for the last however long it's been on. Maybe this interview is what sparks it. That we have a Vikings actor here, a Vikings alum, and we do a Vikings Revisited.
Yeah, do it. I'll go back and I'll tell you which extras weren't doing their job right, or how drunk that one guy was, or
Right, yeah. No, we can get some commentary for someone who was there.
Yeah, I mean, like reaction channels, I absolutely love them. I think I said last time, like the idea of reaction channels, if I explained to somebody else, if aliens came down and was like, you watch other people watch TV, you watch other people play computer games. I think it's a kind of, let's take isolation as a very hot topic of the last 2 years. It's like, if I watch The Red Wedding, if I watch 2 people watch The Red Wedding and react, it's like, it's like when I watched it.
Right.
Or you're waiting to go like, oh my God, they're not going to believe.
Yeah.
Like when I watched it with my dad, and my dad was like, obvious. I'm like, no, it wasn't. Because he's of the generation of, that was done back in, the 40s.
That was done in Dallas.
Yeah, so exactly.
I was with my dad the other day. He's watching Game of Thrones. He's on season 5, and he's like, It's like, yeah, I got some like predictions. I'm like, yeah, all right, tell me what you think. And it was so clear he knows how it ends because he just said the exact ending and like claimed like, yeah, I think that's gonna happen.
Just
Like,
looking off
yeah,
into the distance.
yeah, I think the narrative she's gonna go like she might go crazy, and I think this and like you know the ending. You've definitely seen it. Now you're trying to pass it off like you know what's gonna happen.
There was a guy that somebody I know used to work with, and I did some work there too. And there used to be like on your lunch, you'd have your crossword puzzles, and he'd come in and he'd write one down, then he'd disappear for 20 minutes and he'd come back and he'd solve the whole thing. And they worked out that he was going outside and calling the number with the crossword puzzle and getting the answers and coming back like he just fucking solved the thing, you know?
That's some shit Teddy would do to us.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Congratulations, Teddy, by the way. Sorry I couldn't make your wedding.
Oh yeah.
Sorry you couldn't make my podcast. So I guess we're even.
Yeah, I consider you guys even. I would say that on my list of important things this week, this would be number one. I'm going to start Succession. That's number two. And then Teddy's wedding would be number three.
Putting the clip of Bill Burr talking about marriage. And then
I have another question. Oh, Aaron, you have a question?
All right, go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah. No.
This one here from Jamie at JDE 1998. How does the scale of working on a show of the magnitude of Game of Thrones compare to Vikings?
Yeah, I was going to ask that. I wonder if there's like a noticeable difference between like, because I haven't seen Vikings, but it looked like a pretty large scale show as well. And but Game of Thrones, I mean, with the budget they spent, and obviously talking about the long night, things like Battle of the Bastards and Hard Home and those type of episodes, is it like a noticeable difference, or is it most of that just like stuff put in a post, or is it like
it depends? Like, first of all, I think we skipped that guy Joey Kinsella. Is that his name?
Josh. Yes. Yeah. No.
Josh, he said, "What was my favorite part of filming in Ireland?" I'm from Ireland, so
if you didn't know by now, Josh, Eric is Irish.
Like, no, this is just my really good stage Irish accent.
Right.
So yeah, Colin Farrell was my acting teacher. But yeah, I mean, he would know, I assume, Wicklow, the Guinness Lakes. That's where Vikings is filmed. Tollymore Forest in Northern Ireland is where some stuff was filmed. So I would suggest if anyone's listening who wants to come to Ireland, you can go on the tour that I do, and I'll take you around Ireland. Or you can go to the Guinness Lakes, and there's some sort of typical Irish thing. You can get a bus that brings you to all the pubs around in Wicklow. So just do that, and that'll take you to where you want to go. But as for filming location, there is a place called the Guinness Lakes. It's Caddagat Village in Vikings when you guys get around to watching it. And every time I go to it, no matter how many times you go for it, the magic is never not there. It's always like massive mountains and beautiful water. And obviously with the set being built in there, it's like instantly kind of takes you back. Obviously never been back there, but the feel is really kind of, it's there. And obviously then to answer the other question, the scale of Game of Thrones, obviously it's Game of Thrones. When I came into it, it was season 5. They were the most watched TV show at the time and was for a long time. With Vikings, it was owned by the History Channel, and obviously History Channel doesn't really have the budget that HBO would have. So there was obviously some differences, and I know people that watched Game of Thrones first, and then when they get to Vikings, they go, oh, the production value is a little bit less. But the story is more kind of focused. There's less characters, so the first season is one man versus one man, let's say. And the next season, that man now has a bit of an army, and that other guy has a bigger army. And then the army, obviously the show goes on, the armies get bigger, the show gets more popular. When I came into it, we did the raids of Paris. And if we did that on the set of Game of Thrones, there would be a massive gate, there would be the water, there would be everything. When we did it on Vikings, there was one wall. And when you watch it on TV, that wall is now 700 feet that way. And the boats, we have 4 Viking ships on the show, or had. I think there may be more now. When you watch it, there's 1,000 Viking ships, so it's like, if it was on, like with Game of Thrones, they obviously have the budget to put dragons and shit in it. So, that's where their budget goes. But as the seasons go on, noticeably, it's not there. But at the start, you'll be like, okay, yeah, I can see that. It's a little bit more focused, kind of on the story and not the spectacle. Obviously, it's the same with Game of Thrones, but obviously the cast were Sean Bean and all that sort of stuff, so they already had a level behind it, So it's kind of noticeable, but then it's not,
Right. Yeah, it is amazing how some of these, not to call it a small TV show, every show is small compared to Game of Thrones, but the production value, what they manage to get out of it on television these days with a show like Vikings, not having seen it, but seen trailers and images, it's, you can't tell that it is fiction, that it's not really happening. Kind of amazing how that's all across the board now with TV. Second part to Jamie's question is Tormund or Ragnar in a one-on-one.
Amazing. In a one-on-one drinking contest.
One-on-one drinking, yeah. We could also do that. I don't know much about Ragnar, but Tormund.
Yeah. Peak Ragnar, I assume, is taking out everybody. It would be because I like Tormund was at the start, a fighter, a killer, and then he was a good man.
Right.
So it's like, how about they don't fight? How about they just go drinking and we get to see what happens? That's such a PG thing. Help me. No, they murder each other.
It's a very political answer.
Boom. That's me. No, yeah, no, you gotta watch Vikings, because you'll be like, oh no, he'll fuck him up, like he'll headbutt him to death.
Are the personalities similar between these two characters?
No.
Is Ragnar the lead?
Yes.
Okay.
Played by Travis Fimmel. Yes.
Oh, sorry, Tormund. We still love you here, but you're not taking this one home.
I don't think so. Please don't kill me, internet.
Well, that's one of the most amazing parts of the show. And, we've talked about this, you talking to Rory McCann, how throughout the years he realized that more people were recognizing him on the streets, and he turned to the actor who plays Beric Dondarrion, and he's like, I think this show is pretty popular.
Yeah.
And so many of the supporting characters became icons. Like you said, like someone like Tormund, he walks into a New York pub and I would say maybe half the room is going to instantly recognize him. Maybe not his actor name, but hey, that's Tormund.
He actually told me a story when we were filming season 7. So we were filming 7-1, which was the scene where they decided to put the wildlings on the wall. And we were talking because I know he'd just been cast in the Fast and Furious movie, and I was like, "Are you evil?"
Love him in that.
Like, of course I am, because obviously he is. He's a perfect man for it. And he was talking that when he was in Atlanta, he went and watched Game of Thrones in one of those bars, and he just tried to hide himself and was like booing at the TV, and people were telling him to shut the hell up, because obviously you don't expect them to really be there, so he's just like, this is really, really funny. And obviously I told you guys that I work for a tour company that does Game of Thrones locations tours, and he was telling me that he's seen it before when he was in Belfast, and as his car was driving past the tour bus, he rolled down the window and got the attention of someone on the bus, and the guy started freaking out and started turning around, and as soon as he turned around, Christoph just rolled up his window, so the guy was like the crazy guy saying, "No man, Tormund's over there," stuff like that, where he just fucks with people, and it's just really, really funny. So the supporting cast, like obviously there's doing the tours, I know for statistically different countries have different favorites, you know what I mean? So let's say the Irish and English will love the Hound because he loves using cunt as a fucking unit of measurement, and so do we, people like in India, they love Arya. In South America, they can't get enough of Jon Snow, all these sort of things. And I guess it has to be something cultural with it at some point, but it's just fascinating that the whole show, like let's say, Aaron, I know you like Cersei, right?
Yes.
And there'd be girls I meet on tour who are like, oh, I love Ramsay Bolton. And I'm like, oh Jesus Christ!
Don't compare Cersei to Ramsay. That's
I won't, but you know what I mean. It's just like
very disrespectful to Ramsay. I agree.
Now it makes me seem like I'm crazy, because if a girl said she liked Ramsay to me, it's like, oh, it's kind of That's kind of weird. Like,
She'd be
Cersei,
into some weird shit.
Yeah, Cersei is, she's ruthless when she has to be. Ramsay just does it for just a bit of fun.
I think Ramsay's a little misunderstood, but
I wonder who is like you said, how some of it's regional. I wonder who, like, if you like America, it's probably Daenerys, right? Probably the most popular.
Yeah, I imagine at some point, it depends. I'm sure they're right now in the comment section going, it's Daenerys, you fucking idiots.
Yeah, I've always
You
considered
uneducated
her
swines.
the face of the show. I mean, my mom's boyfriend always refers to her as the dinosaur lady because he can't remember any of their names, but he remembers the dinosaur lady. Do you have a favorite character, Eric? Is it favorite character that just from being a fan?
Jon Snow.
Yeah.
Obviously. It's just really funny because I remember saying it to you guys, but I'll say it again, about, like, I'm going to ask you a question. Let's take season 8 or 7. Is there a major character that you could have watched die and not given a shit about? That someone is that is a major fan favorite. Like I told you guys, when knowing the Arya was going to kill the Night King and he grabs her by the throat, I was like, happily just like a daisy, and I wouldn't have batted an eyelid just because it was like, wow, it would have been shocking. And
I was going to wear my Arya shirt today too. Glad I didn't.
No, no, but you know what I mean? It's just like, I'm all right. I can take it or leave it. Okay, yeah. And I remember that thing of George R. R. Martin, obviously the internet, like I started watching the show Lost. That was the first show that really started to get me into fan theories and like message boards and all that sort of stuff. And George R. R. Martin saying like the ending will be bittersweet. And I was just like, I'd be on the tour messing with people going like, yeah, he's going to kill Arya. And someone would be like, no, because he said, his wife said if he kills Arya, he'll leave him or she'll leave him. I was like, exactly. Bittersweet. He kills Arya and his wife leaves him. You know what I mean?
Imagine he was just like, had no intention of killing Arya. She says that. He's like, here's my way out. Arya's dead.
It's so funny because that moment, and in the moment, it was so iconic. It was such a shock to see the Night King die that early. Everyone expected Jon Snow to be the one who kills the Night King. I remember Drake shouting out Arya Stark. I forget what the award show was. It was such a cultural moment, and it's so funny to hear you say, I just wish the Night King would have just snapped her neck. She is such a fan favorite.
My favorite shirt, the Arya doing the Jordan. It's legendary. Legendary shot. And
yeah, legendary merch. There you go. That's all. That's what you're about.
Exactly.
In the end, no, that's what it became, right? It's just the merch, because I think the moment now it's certainly more controversial than when it happened. That was sort of the beginning of the end for, that's when people really became divided around the long night.
It's that thing. Obviously now, like Aaron, you being a professional script writer, and don't worry, I have George on the horn here ready for you. It's like if John had killed him, it would have been lazy writing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then it's like,
yeah, you were going to get complaints either way.
You were going to subjectively, was it subvert our
expectations?
Thank you. You can cut that into one actual sentence.
Yeah.
In the edit.
I've got experience with that. Trust me.
So it's just like, either way, they were fucked.
Yeah,
there was no way they were gonna, I mean, at least if your dad is predicting it, he'll be happy. He was like, yeah, son, nailed it, so we just got to get a whole world full of your dads, and then that's it, but at the same time,
oh, sorry, go, keep going.
No.
Oh no, I was gonna say, like, what about like anyone that like maybe a character you really not to say you didn't like a character, but you really had no opinion, but then like maybe you had an interaction with somebody and then that made you like the character even more, with like interaction with the actors. Like, let's say Tormund's, like, if you didn't really like that character, then having like interaction with him gave you like more investment in that character.
I can see how it happens, yeah. So for example, like there wasn't a situation like that for me, but actually maybe seeing Jacob Anderson, like I was already, on the team Grey Worm thing because he's just a cool motherfucker. But seeing Jacob Anderson do his practice fights I was just like, oh, that's so sick. Because obviously the Unsullieds, they were trained by a military advisor for weeks. They were absolutely screamed at until they marched and charged. And they, like, as they were doing the long night, we were standing there and we're watching it. And the military advisor, his name is Jamie, he would blow a whistle, and there would certain whistles would get certain moves. So it'd be like one whistle would be like, you know, their feet coming together, like going to attention. The second whistle would be like shields in. The third whistle or three whistles would be all these sort of things. And when they come out of the Winterfell gate and they protect Melisandre, like that is all one motion. There was no like, okay, let's do the walk. They trained for weeks to do that. And we're standing there and it's freezing cold and it's snowing for real. And then all I hear is like, shh, 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 and all I hear is, and it's just like, holy shit, you know, because I know those guys, like the Unsullied, like some of those guys are idiots. But then all of a sudden, once a man in the military shouts at them, they were professional Unsullieds, you know. So the work that they put in was insane. Obviously, then watching Jacob Anderson doing his fight scenes, I was like, oh, it's so badass.
Yeah.
But I can see how it happens because, like, you know, being a fan of Jon Snow and then watching Kit work and being like, oh, so cool, you know, just being a fan obviously of the show and being there is a weird situation because there was many times where I would have an interaction and in that interaction would be, yeah, cool, but inside I'm fucking losing it.
Yeah.
You know, and then obviously I can't, because as much as, you know, I worked on a tour about the show and filmed during the show and did the tour during filming, I never told anybody anything. There was never kind of like, oh, here's some spoilers. You know, I didn't need that kind of instant gratification of, hey, I work on Game of Thrones. They obviously already knew that from the tour, but I never said like, oh, I'm losing the crowd. Here's a spoiler for the next season. It was just like, so when something happens, like an interaction with Jon Snow or Tormund, or all of a sudden Jorah Mormont walks by, I'm like, you know, you got to hold that in for 9 months. You know, so then it's just like, hey, remember that scene I did? I was there. You know, it's just like, what? It's like, yeah, why didn't you tell me? Well, I can't, you know. So the secrecy, like, for example, something that I did recently won't be out for another year. And when it comes out, people aren't going to believe that I was there. You know what I mean? So it's just like, but inside my head now, I have the biggest spoilers on the planet for a certain thing. You know what I mean? And I just got to sit and wait for you guys to go, holy shit, did you see the thing? And I'll be like, yeah, I was there, lads. Don't tell anybody. You know what I mean? So it's just that thing of like, John's back alive. I was there, you know, John's getting stabbed. You know, it's just like, it's a weird kind of thing, but interacting with the cast, like, and them changing the way I saw them. Yeah. It's a weird thing. It's like, you know everything about them because of the internet. So when they walk by and go morning, you go, all right, you know their name. They don't know who you are, but it's a weird kind of, that's what I assume the fans, people walking up to people eating their dinner. You're like, what are you doing? It's not, I would never walk up to you guys and interrupt your beer. But it seems that if you were famous people, I'd be like, this is my only chance to ever see Aaron from the Nerd Soup. I'm gonna interrupt him. He's probably gonna fucking kick my ass, but at least I got to meet him. You know what I mean? So it's just it
happens all the time. I can't even leave my apartment without people coming up to me. It's crazy. It's hard, you know. But yeah, I think like as a fan too, I feel like that's got to be not only just interacting with like some of the cast, but just like knowing shit that you've been waiting to find out and watch for a while, but now you're just getting to see it like play out, like being shot or in the script, or kind of, you know, knowing John's coming back because you're in the Battle of the Bastards like a year before you would regularly even know that's going to happen, or experience it in a totally different way than you have been experiencing the show up until the point you started to be on it.
Mm-hmm. So for example, we shot Battle of the Bastards. I didn't know anything about Cersei's storyline. So when people say, oh, is episode 9 better than episode 10? Because I didn't know what was going on. The only thing I knew in episode 10 is Jon being crowned King of the North. And that was it. everything else was a separate storyline. So when Cersei blew that thing up, and obviously the piano, and I love music, and Ramin Djawadi's a genius, I was like, holy shit, this is way better than Battle of the Bastards in the moment, you know, because I'm like hooked because I didn't know the answer, you know. So I would go through 7 and 8 trying not to hear storylines, because, you know, let's say one of the guys had done a scene as a Lannister and a Bolton and a Stark, he would have all this information, and when you're sitting around bored, somebody might go, oh, yesterday we did the death of Littlefinger, and you'd be like, oh, that's how I hear about it, you know what I mean? So, oh, do you want to know what Hodor means? No, I don't, you know. But then all of a sudden someone goes, yeah, I do. Like, yeah, it means this. I'm like, I wanted to watch that, you know.
Right.
So it's like you got to avoid a lot of things, you know. So with like season 6, that's when I started to like, maybe I should just watch this as a fan, as much as, so I only worked on episode 1 of season 7. So the rest of season 7, I had not a clue about. And then season 8, unfortunately, got a little bit harder because all of the factions were together. So I worked on episode 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. So the only thing I didn't know was episode 5. So I watched the bells completely in the dark, not knowing what was going to happen.
Wow.
I knew about Daenerys doing stuff, but I didn't know what she was doing. I just heard some stories of the boys having to throw babies in fires and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So
Standard stuff.
all the gruesome shit, you know. all the DVD extras.
Yeah, we have a Patreon supporter whose username is Daenerys was just redecorating. So I guess that's kind of the spin zone for the bells. What happened in King's Landing.
Perfect. What a name.
We've got some more questions here. I'll take one from Jake Trundle at jtrundle10. He asks, what was your coolest or most fun kill as a wildling? So did you have any, like, because you mentioned that the way that they shot it, the wildling would fall, count 3 seconds, get right back up. So is there any moment in your mind where you got a clean just shot at someone on camera?
Nah.
No.
I mean, as much as you think,
right.
Like as much as you think the camera is there in front of you and you're like, oh my God, because I was fighting an undead Unsullied on the wall. So he climbed over the wall and then he has me by the throat and the camera was like right there. And we were like, he was talking because obviously, you know, he has the mask. So it's just like, he's like, okay, now. And I kill him and then run off. And we did it like 10 times. And obviously when you watch it, it's shot from 50 different angles. And what I didn't realize is someone way more important is right over there doing way more important shit, you know? So it's like in the moment, you're like, oh, this is what I had to teach some friends of mine who started working TV. I was like, look, just because you think you're there doesn't mean you're on TV. There's guys that I know who've done multiple years and multiple seasons of shows and they do so many features, but if it doesn't make the final cut, if it doesn't fit the story and the narrative and in that episode for the moment that they want, you know, cutting room floor for it all. So Christopher Newman, who is the producer of Game of Thrones during Battle of the Bastards, he took a lot of guys off separately and shot his own little unit, and he did just with extras a whole load of like cuts. You've seen the Battle of the Bastards cuts with like, you know, throat cuts and beheadings and arms getting cut off. He did all that sort of stuff, you know. So there would be stuff like that you do, and we do it on Vikings, where I'm like, you know, okay, on 3, we're going to shoot this guy in the face with a blood gun. We want you to hit him and then run away. So you're, you know, you think, oh, that's it. And you go home with a big fucking smile on your face. And then you watch the episode and nah, they did some artsy, everything's in the fucking dark, you know, or everything's too bright, you know? So there's nothing yet. Even recently, I shot a docudrama where I play a Viking, of course, looking ahead of me. Typecast, but hey,
yeah, I was gonna say you're getting typecast.
So I come into we raid this Irish village, we kill the whole family. I get into the hut, I kill the mom of the family, I take all her jewelry, I open up this box, and I drag this girl out of the box, and that's the scene. And then when I watched it, I'm like, oh man, this is it. My first cast, like this is it. I did it. I have a credit, mom. Get there, walk in the room, cuts to me, open the box. I was like, oh, sick. You know what I mean? So it's just like all these things where I'm just like, you're better off doing a million scenes and hoping one gets there than thinking, oh no, I'll just do that one scene. That's definitely in the show. Like that scene is definitely, come on, like he said, it's a really important scene. Of course it's going to be in the final cut. Like my friend who I met on season 7 of Game of Thrones, like she played Alice Karstark, her whole death scene was cut out of Game of Thrones.
Right.
And you can find it on the DVD extras. And I'm just like, holy shit, like, you know, it doesn't matter about my stupid kill on the wall. Like she was a legit character with a legit death, with a legit horror style, gets eaten alive inside the forest by all these undead children. But the reasoning I imagine behind it is because they just showed Arya in the library and did a horror scene. They don't want to do another horror scene because the Snapchat generation, the TikTok generation of the world will get bored if they see 2 of the same scenes in a row. You know what I mean? So they have to cut and chop everything to make it fit, you know. So unfortunately, it just ends up with more stuff getting cut.
I really hope that Zack Snyder's fans are listening right now to the process of how TV shows and movies are made. A lot of it's not going to be included, man. A lot of it just ends up on the, like you said, the cutting room floor. But
even like stuff that doesn't get cut, I imagine, like how you're saying, just even if you're doing something in the background, I could think, especially like with Battle of the Bastards, I think
86 hours of footage we shot for Battle of the Bastards.
But I think like
that's absurd.
Obviously the focus is on Jon and Tormund and Ramsay and all those characters, but that battle and that episode wouldn't be nearly as good if it wasn't for everything going on that maybe you don't particularly notice, but just everything else going around those characters, creating that kind of tense and kind of suffocating atmosphere that really brings that episode and battle to life. So I think that, you know, even stuff that's in the background, it's all very important and adds to what it can make a scene that much better or a sequence that much better if it's done right and if it's done in a way that adds to all the elements of the battle. So I still remember watching that battle and just feeling like I was being suffocated with Jon in that fucking mosh pit.
Like it's as I said to you guys, like having Game of Thrones on a resume, it definitely helps because people are like, oh well, that's the biggest show in the world, and this guy did so many years. He obviously wasn't fucking around. Like he obviously fit the bill, you know. And there's that famous scene from that famous old movie where there's a bomb about to go off. And just before the bomb goes off, a kid in the audience puts his fingers in the ear, and all of a sudden, the shock and the tension is gone because they're like, "Oh, something's going to blow up." You know, the unfortunate part of doing this TV work now is I know all of the stunt performers' faces who've been in Vikings. So if they appear in Game of Thrones, I'm like, "Oh, someone's dying." You know what I mean? So it's just like,
they're tells.
Like, oh, it's cool to work on TV, but now TV is ruined, you know. So and I'm constantly looking in the background because I'm like, I could have been that guy with a beard. Like I got there was a casting for bearded, long-haired men, and it was like over 6'4" or 6'4" beard, long-haired men, and that's me. And I'm like, oh my god, this is it. And then one of my friends was like, yeah, it's for Marvel, and I'm like, holy shit. And then he was like, yeah, did you click apply? And I was like, oh, I got to click apply. And I never clicked apply, and it turns out it was for Infinity War, and it was for the scene where Thanos kills Loki in front of Thor, and as it's panning across all the dead bodies, there's a dead guy with long hair and a beard, and I'm like, oh, could have been me, man, you know. So there's all these things of like, there's so many times where I'm like, the idea of, hey, are you free next year, to actually getting the job is. It's the rejection is unbelievable, you know. And it just like, I think so. For example, the I don't know. No, I probably can't say that. Can I?
Yeah, you probably can.
Thanks, my lawyer.
I see that the red dot's already on your forehead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how. See, this is the thing when you say veteran actor, not a clue, not a fucking clue what's going on. Can I say that I auditioned for a movie? The movie's already done now. It's coming out in April of next year.
Yeah, I think that should be all right.
Can I say? We'll find out in the future. And so I auditioned for Robert Edger's The Northman. You know, I know. Yeah, I know. I did an audition in front of Robert Edgers, and listening to your podcast and you guys fanboying over him, I'm like, oh my God,
he's one of my favorites.
I can't wait to get this job. And then immediately after getting the job, tell you guys that, hey, I'm like legitimately show up on the podcast as a proper actor instead of just what I'm showing up right now. You know, maybe in a year's time, you'll have to pay me for me to be here.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
It's just that thing of like the that's all right. So it's all these things of like, I got availability checks, and obviously everything works on security codes, and I'm then trying to decipher what this code is before I say yes. Because if I give away 2 weeks and then some other show is like, hey, do you want to do that? I'm not gonna do this thing, but it's all in code. And I cracked the Enigma code, and it was just like, hey, can you do 3 weeks on The Witcher? And I was just like, oh, yeah, of course I can. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. Working on The Witcher, nothing. I'm like, fuck, you know. But I have this thing of like, before I've even gotten the job, I assume I have it. And the amount of times where I'm just like, oh, never mind, you know. So It's just like trying to expand into this thing is just like, it's really interesting. But now I've learned not to tell anybody until it's complete canon, you know, and then do it in that kind of way, you know. So
well, do you want to talk about the upcoming project that you do have?
So yeah, so I have an agent, but it's like a non-exclusive agent. So she will only get jobs that she can only get me. And if I get that job, then she gets all the commission and all that sort of fancy stuff. Nothing has come through just yet, but at least I have an agent, and I can say I have an agent, which even if she does nothing, it's still better than not having an agent, because not being represented is like, well, why aren't you represented? You know, so, but this job, I don't even know how it happened. I was approached to do an audition for something, and I said yes. And I spent a few days pretending I knew how to act. And luckily, the acting that they wanted was in a different language. So when it's in a different language, this voice that I have now can completely change, because when I say different words in a different language, it sounds cooler, you know. So I did it. And then they said, hey, we want you to do a Zoom recall audition. And when you do the Zoom recall, the producer and casting agent, all these people will be here. And I'm like, okay, cool. Because first of all, Zoom, it's like doing it right now. I don't know. What if the audio drops out, or where do I look? You know what I mean? So all these things of like stuff I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with, but all of a sudden now I'm on the chair. But then I think back of, I was in a room with Robert Edgers and the girl who cast the people for Game of Thrones at some point. And I'm like, well, I got this far, you know what I mean? So I must have done something correct in a way. So I did the audition, and then and that's the thing, because I did a scene with a girl, and when she started talking, the audio dropped out, and I'm just left there like, do it. And then I made her do it again, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, this is my chance. Don't fuck it up with your shitty internet, you know? So I did it, and then I got a call about 2 hours afterwards saying they want to offer me a role, and it will be a fully cast, like a proper, I can say, actor now, you know, back. So which is a weird thing. And they also didn't find an actor for one of the other roles, so I will play 2 roles in the show.
2 roles.
So, boom. Andy Serkis job. Not Andy Serkis's job. Jesus, it's not Lord of the Rings.
You're breaking some news.
No, I wish. So I will play 1 role in full prosthetics with veneers and contact lenses and other shit. And then I will play a different role where I think I will look kind of like me, kind of. Hopefully they make me look a little cooler. But yeah, because it's for a pilot, they're like, no, you can play one guy and then the other guy. Interestingly, I will have to, as Paul Bettany once, lied to and work with the best actor he knows, I may have to shoot some scenes with myself. And obviously me on a Zoom call with producers and casting agents, I said the sentence, I don't mind playing with myself because I'm a fucking idiot. And
When?
The best actors have to be comfortable playing with themselves on screen, man. It's something you're gonna have to do.
So I have a table read, like all these things that I see on TV or documentaries or behind the scenes of, let's say, watching the documentary Game of Thrones when they showed the table read. I have a table read in June, and I think it's filming in November. And all I know is that, and that's it. And they like, do you have any questions? And because I didn't have the job at the time, I went, no, I'm all right. Thank you. Nice to meet you. And then I left, and I was just like, I don't know who's making it. I don't know what it is. I mean, I know some things, and obviously, as I said to you, I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to keep some of the stuff secret. So finish it. I didn't ask any questions, and the concept of the television series is amazing. And there is a certain show that it's kind of like, but it's kind of cooler to me. And it might be cooler to other people, where people mightn't watch that because they're not interested in that, but they're definitely interested in this. And that's the code that I will be speaking in. But what I got the casting agent to do is to send me an email that says, Eric, I need you to get into the best shape of your life. Oh. I don't need it's CGI and prosthetics, but if I have a thing on paper that says get into like fucking Alexander Skarsgård shape now, I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll go and do it. You know what I mean? And also when someone goes, hey, do you want to go drink a load of beer for 4 days? I'm like, I can't, man. I'm an actor now. Got to get into that, I don't know which Christian Bale shape I'm going to be in, but it's one of them, so I'm hoping it's right. Batman Christian Bale and not, so it's just stupid shit that I was like, hey, can you just email me this exact sentence so it will motivate me into going to the gym when they open.
Yeah, man, those are
so interesting.
All the different things that go into being an actor. You don't realize that a lot of it's off the camera. It's not all on camera. It's all the preparation that goes into it.
And it's the thing of, this is a pilot TV series. And, it's interesting because the person on the call said, yeah, in about season 3, something will happen. And I'm like, but it's a pilot. They're going to make 1 episode. What if nobody likes me, And it just ends up in like David Nutter is the famous pilot king who every pilot that he did for TV got green lit. So he did like The Flash, he did Arrow, he did, obviously, if you don't know who David Nutter is, he's the director of The Red Wedding and Cersei's Walk of Shame and The Funeral of Winterfell and I
think he did he do The Bells?
The best episode of season 8 where they all start singing because I love music.
Oh, right.
I haven't already said that. Too, he directed that episode. He directed episode 1 as well. So I'm hoping he's doing the pilot because he's got a very good track record, so because I don't want to I'm in this show. It's going to be fucking amazing. And I'm in it and I'm also in it twice. Do I get 2 credits?
Yeah.
Because do I get 2 paychecks?
We've just decided that now.
These are things I don't know. I'm going to have to use one of you guys' sweet accents to be like, well, my client. And then you could represent the other character and playing. Boom, 2 lawyers. I'll have a fire truck of lawyers,
right?
Demand my extra €10 an hour. But yeah, it's interesting. And every day I am learning and lying until I know what I'm doing. I think Aaron Paul didn't go to acting class, right? So it's his fault that I didn't go to acting class. Because he made it. Wasn't Harrison Ford a carpenter and he's Harrison Ford now? Yeah, that's the thing. I'm just going to keep winging it.
Miles Teller can't even act. He's made a good career out of himself.
Yeah, it's quite amazing how many actors are able to do that. But just seeing some of your, because you've sent me some audition tapes in the past, and I've really enjoyed them, man. So it's cool to see you making the transition from extra to, like you said, having dual speaking roles in a pilot of a show. So, congratulations. And it's just awesome to see. Yeah, just because I know how crazy your life can be at times. You know, the life of an actor, it's just moving at 100 miles per hour. So hope you have the chance to, you know, kick back and rest up before you take on this new role. What'd you say? It was shooting in November, right?
I took a whole year off. I mean,
right, that is
took
true.
a whole year off.
Right.
But you know, at least when I took a whole year off, I could focus on it and not, you know what I mean? So it's like, as much as it's literally the worst thing that's happened to the planet in a very long time, it's been really good for certain things, aspects in my life, and maybe some other people that I know have benefited, and not with the way like Amazon benefits or whatever. It's just, I mean, like they literally went, oh, fuck it, why not? I don't have a job. Let me go and try and be a musician, or let me go and try do acting. And I think it's a good start that I didn't have to act in front of other people, because, oh, can you send us in a self-tape? Yeah, no problem. Now I can panic for 4 days and come up with the best thing. And obviously, when I show people, I know, let's say showing you, I don't know you. You don't have to tell me it's good. You know, you might sugarcoat it, but also, you know, TV and you know film, you might go, that's fucking shit, man. And I'd be like, good. I'm glad somebody knows, you know what I mean? Because when obviously I show it to my friend and he goes, oh man, that's sick. I'm like, fuck you, you liar. You're just saying that because you're my friend, you know what I mean? So I need to get a group of people who will just give me shit. And I have a couple of people who don't lie to me and go, that is completely the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Why is just one of your eyes moving and the other one has decided not to show up?
Yeah. It's like when your grandma says your hand is like, well, you have to say that, so I'm not going to believe it.
Yeah. No joke. Teddy would be the perfect person for feedback. I think Teddy is always just so blunt when he doesn't like something that we're doing on the channel. It'd be like, yeah, I think that character sucks. Redesign him, or re-edit this video. So that would be your guy.
I'll start sending Teddy my.
Well, he's going to get a big head too. He's going to be sending you back acting pointers.
That'll be perfect. That'll be like Teddy's tape review. Teddy's tape review coming soon to the Patreon.
Teddy reviewing acting auditions. That's a Patreon exclusive.
Yeah.
That is.
All right, we'll throw another question at you here, Eric. This one here from Lucky Chris 02 at Chris Mayoral. Question for Mr. Nolan. How difficult was it to sing while rowing on Vikings?
That man definitely plays Assassin's Creed. How difficult was to sing and row at the same time? Luckily, I actually in 2020, when I started working on the new Netflix spin-off of Vikings, had the opportunity to learn how to row the Viking ship. So in Vikings, I never did the rowing, but in Vikings Valhalla, I was lucky enough to be asked, hey, do you want to do some rowing? Because I shot a movie out in Galway, and the rowing team from Vikings were there. And I was like, hey, how do you do that? We got 3 hours to kill. Teach me the words, teach me all the lingo that you guys say. And obviously, I'm the worst one, but now I can kind of hold my own. I can sing. I haven't tried singing and rowing at the same time because they're filming a TV show. And the last thing I want to do is fucking ruin the take by me trying to sing in Old Norse. But I imagine it's like patting your head and rubbing your belly at the same time. So is he doing it? Is it patting your belly and rubbing your head?
Belly, yeah.
Okay.
No.
There you go. Look at him. Genius. As everyone listening to the pod is now tapping their head and rubbing their bellies. Oh, you made your bed.
Yeah, I was wondering, just reading this question, is if there was a lot of singing while rowing, while watching Vikings, because that could definitely get me to watch it. That sounds fun.
Yeah,
well then, yeah, man, we sing it all the time. It's like a Disney movie.
It's basically a musical.
Vikings.
No, there is some.
It's like Hamilton.
I mean, Game of Thrones, the Broadway show. Put me in that. Also.
Oh yeah, definitely, dude. That's going to the tourney of Harrenhal, right? That preceded Robert's Rebellion. Kind of got the ball rolling.
I assume it'll be like the Bravos play, but done on a bigger scale.
Right.
Style.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the
Well,
universe has so much potential for spin-offs and just kind of every medium, right? On stage,
yeah.
television, movies,
So
possibly.
one spin-off that I heard, obviously you hear spin-offs all the time, and now there's like what, 5 coming, 4,
Yeah.
3 more.
The
At the
number
time
has
of
been
the
5,
end, at the end of season 8, there was like, oh, I'm hearing this and I'm hearing that, and I think one of the things I heard was like Brian Cogman, one of the writers of Game of Thrones, wants to do a Dothraki spin-off show where it's like the TV show Vikings, where it's based in the culture of the Northmen of Scandinavia, but it will be based in the culture of the Dothrakis, because obviously, you know, Khal Drogo is the most feared killer on the planet in Game of Thrones episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But we don't get to see that. We just get to see like, oh, he just ripped a man's throat out. But what did he do last year? You know, so he wanted to do that, but I think it's that thing of, well, we already know he dies. We can't put him into dramatical situations. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, he obviously beats that guy. He obviously beats that guy. He obviously makes it to the Khal of Khals, you know? So they have obviously so much to choose from. I think, isn't there like a sand snake? Not a sand snake. Is there a sand one? Why is the word sand snake in my brain?
Sand snakes?
Oh, they were going to do
Yeah.
What is it? The Martell woman who Aaron, you know her name. Her 1,000
Nymeria?
ships. Yes, yeah, the story of Nymeria Martell. What was her, did she have a sand nickname?
No, I don't think so. There's Nymeria Sand is one of Oberyn's daughters, but
Right, yeah, I think there was the history of one of those Martell characters. Well, the big one we have now, you know, that we're getting set photos out for is House of the Dragon. And I've heard some of our listeners comment the same thing. You know, we kind of know how it's going to end. So how invested can you really get? But I argue that that ending is so messy for everyone involved that even if you know it, it's still going to kind of just rip your heart out. And I think a lot of these shows are right. Yeah. And a lot of people aren't familiar with that history. You know, they mention it in throughout the series that it kind of led to the downfall of House Targaryen. But yeah, the characters people aren't too familiar with the characters. They're going to be stunned when they see 18 fucking dragons flying around, you know, because that's something we're certainly not used to with Game of Thrones. But are you excited for House of the Dragon? Right. Yeah, just right off the jump.
Obviously, of course I am. You know, I tried to fucking get in the thing. You know,
got to dye the hair silver.
Look at obviously the industry that this it is. Cut this fucking English sentence out. See, I'm an actor. I have to talk for a living. You can use this rant. So I'm very lucky in who I know in certain things now. So obviously it's not what you know, it's who you know, and certain things that I've done in the past have only been offered because I know this person and that person. And recently I was invited to go and look at stuff, and I was inside a massive costume warehouse in an undisclosed location. And as I was talking to the person who made all these costumes and talking about he's got Russell Crowe's costume from this, he's got the original this and that, he's got this, he just sent a shirt to Cillian Murphy for Peaky Blinders, you know, all these sort of things. As I'm there, I'm looking on the ground and there's a piece of paper that says Targaryen coat, House of the Dragon. And I'm going, oh yeah, so how is everything? You know, because I'm now seeing shit before, like, and then obviously now seeing those photographs put out by HBO, I'm like, I was in the same room as that coat. You know what I mean? So, but I was there before it was even made. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, I could have fit that. Of course, I'm excited. It is being filmed in the UK at the moment. Unfortunately, being from Ireland, it's more difficult to become an extra or do anything in the UK because they'll be like, where do you live? And I'm like, about 45 minutes on a plane. Oh, well, we need you to live around the corner, you know? So where the shots that you guys have seen were shot in a place called Cornwall, which if you Google it, it doesn't look like it's part of the grey old UK weather. It looks like a beautiful beach in Spain or wherever. So I think because of the pandemic, a lot of productions will change their mind about traveling to the world. They will have to search for certain areas in their country that's maybe gonna fit the look of what they want, but I'm excited. And because I have an IMDb Pro account, I get information. So somebody has just been cast in the House of the Dragon today. I don't want to tell you his name. I'm sure the news outlets will tell you guys in 2 hours. I don't know how it works, but we're savvy to different information. Obviously, I use that information for the good of my future and be like, oh, hey, I see you just got cast as that. It's like, how did you know? You know what I mean? So, but yeah, of course I'm excited. And obviously people going, oh, but let's hope it doesn't fucking end shit. I was like, what?
There we go. No. Outlander like, confirms he's been secretly cast in HBO's House of the Dragon.
Boom.
Who was that you said? Right Kevin Hart?
Graham McTavish.
Oh, wow. Looks like we have a part 2 for our introduction to the House of Dragon.
Yeah, just about Graham McTavish. He's going to say who he's playing.
Just about Graham.
Yeah.
Just me in a jacket and me and Graham.
Yeah, we were wondering what the location was of those photos in terms of the Game of Thrones universe, and it did look like Dragonstone. And I remember they shot a lot of Dragonstone in Spain. So for them to move it to Cornwall, and like you said, that was the first thing that popped into my mind, just looking at that location. It's like, when did Spain get hidden away in the UK? It's just this random beach.
Well, that, like, you just got to wait for a sunny day. So I'm sure they have 4 or 5 of them coming up very soon, so they can, okay, let's do all the hot stuff now, if they want gray shit, every day, every day they can film in that part.
Right.
For myself, like, I'm keeping my ear to the ground, and with my agent, because I don't know how it works. The first thing I did was email her, hey, I don't know how to act. I didn't say that, but I don't want to be in like a cop drama because I don't look like I'd fit in a cop drama. But here's a list of things I know that are coming that I would fit in. You know what I mean? So like Game of Thrones, put me in that, or try to put me in that. Anything Marvel and DC, anything with Jason Momoa, please. Just a shopping list. Stuff that she would just go, what? That's not how it works. I'd be like, oh, I thought you just kind of asked, hey, can I be in this show? I hear this is going to be sick,
I'd like to play opposite Margot Robbie in her next rom-com, please.
Yeah.
I'm like Adam Sandler, or was it Seth MacFarlane? Let me just get Charlize Theron to be the love interest of that movie.
Yeah.
Well, Adam Sandler does that in every movie.
Mm-hmm. The guy's a genius.
Would that be possible? I don't know how it works in terms of like, what do I want to say?
Casting?
Well, no, just in like having the same like extra in Game of Thrones and now House of the Dragon. It's like continuity issues or anything like that.
This is the thing that I thought people gave a shit about. So when people go, hey, do you want to go do VFX for that episode? Oh, no, I wasn't there. And I go, no, I wasn't there. Whereas people don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like when they moved Tommen and they turned Nathan Lannister into Tommen, only nerds know. You know what I mean? Yeah. If I suddenly end up in House of the Dragon and the news outlets are like, oh, extra becomes actor in his favorite franchise, then they're like, oh, what? Why didn't they use somebody else? The internet will be after me. There's 3 different mountains. Did anyone care? Was there an uproar when Conan Stevens wasn't the mountain anymore? So it's stuff like that. Me, for my own personal thing of like, oh, what if they're like, oh, you can't be in this? No one's going to give a shit. And I know they did a casting for a certain faction that I am not in Game of Thrones. I was like, I could be that. Just got to do some thing and I'll be that. I don't want to say anything. Look at me, speaking in code. There you go. See, I told you I don't tell them anything. HBO, please don't shoot me. Please cast me if you're listening, because I know what they do. So, I don't think it will matter unless I'm literally playing a wildling and I have the same costume, and they'll be like, wait, what? You mean, what sort of multiverse is this?
Random wildling in the middle of the Targaryen Civil War.
I mean, if I do get any sort of work on House of the Dragon, well, then it becomes now I have to be in all of them. Whatever spin-off is going, I have to. There's the guy, that extra, the kind of nerd guy with the glasses and the kind of quiff that's in every movie, like with Seth Rogen, and he's always like a college kid. He's like the best extra. You could probably find a YouTube. I think I saw the guy, yeah. That could be me, but in every episode of every spin-off of Game of Thrones, that I'd be happy with that as a career. So and only you would know. You know what I mean? Only you would go, wait, I know him.
Right.
It would only ruin your experience. So that's all that matters. I
think it would add to it. I'll be like,
there you go. It could be a drinking game.
Yeah, exactly.
Grab another question here. This one from Melissa at MellyB23. What are your favorite underrated scenes in Game of Thrones?
Oh my God. This is when the pre-clearance questions. This is the one I should. Question I should have read. Underrated scenes. Obviously, Charles Dance saying "You're my daughter," and obviously, this podcast has helped me love the sentence "They were boys."
I saw Harry die on the battlefield, and Torrent
was strangled by the Kingslayer. They were his kids.
They were boys.
All these really important scenes in Game of Thrones. I guess underrated scenes in the show, it's got to be all the kind of clues that they've left for the Red Wedding is definitely happening. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff of, who let these two guys write the last season? They wrote 56 episodes of the fucking thing. And they wrote it in a way that, holy shit, did you know that this happened? And everything, it's all underrated. Watch it again.
Your choice was actually, that is a great choice because it's not really considered one of the most iconic scenes. It's Tywin and Cersei arguing over who she is or isn't going to marry. But, Lena Headey as Cersei to be able to hold her own in a scene like that with Charles Dance, one of the best castings I think the show ever did. It really is a scene that when somebody mentions it, you think back and think, yeah, two heavyweights going at it.
The scene of Robert and Cersei as well. And that's because
love that
the
scene.
The most rewatched season for me obviously is like 6 and around 5, just 6 basically, because I watch Battle of Bastards and The Winds of Winter, and when I'm on the tour, when the tour finishes, as the bus drives back to Dublin, you get to watch 2 episodes of the show, and you would normally show season 1, episode 1 and 2, because if people haven't seen the show and they're on the bus, well, there's their beginning. So I'll show them that. But when it's a crowd of people who have seen the show, and I've got a few DVDs that I own myself, I'd be like, "Do you guys want to watch something else?" And I'll be, "Yeah, what do you want to watch? You want to watch Battle of the Bastards?" And yeah, so season 1 I haven't watched the most. So when certain scenes like Cersei and Robert, because like in my head, Robert just is in episode 1 and 2 in my brain, and that's it. And then I move on to other seasons. But that scene is to watch them. It's like, and that's why obviously people are like, "Oh, we want a Robert's Rebellion spin-off." Unless Mark Addy's coming back in the end, because I just love him as a human being.
He might be the most underrated actor in terms of the performance that he gave as that character, because I love those scenes of him talking with Cersei, talking about their marriage, talking politics. Even the scene between Mark Addy, Nikolaj Coster-Waldau, and I can't remember the Barristan Selmy's actor's name. One of my favorites. Just them talking shit,
Mm-hmm.
What about like a scene that you were a part of that, or like something maybe you got to witness that's underrated in the sense that like maybe just casual viewers don't understand like how, like what went into it? Like maybe like it, obviously,
I get you.
All the Bastards, Long Night, we know what went into that, but something
Mm-hmm.
that we might
So
not.
the funeral scene of episode 4, so the last of the Starks, what went into that was like everything, because we had just finished the long night, so we had literally finished 3 months, let's say, no matter how many days you did, whether it was 10 or 30 or 55, people were destroyed, you know what I mean? And obviously cast members have said in their interviews, like, I didn't know if I was crying because I was sad or because my body was like, thank God I can take a break. You know what I mean? So when we did the Funeral of Winterfell, that was the final day of filming for everybody on the set at Winterfell, except for a select group. So the scene where Sam says goodbye to Jon, I think that was the last day at Winterfell officially. But the funeral scene where they burn all the funeral pyres, every faction was there. The Dothrakis, the Wildlings, the Night's Watch, cast members, and obviously the cast members who were dead were obviously laying on the funeral pyre. People in the area, all the crew were watching the fire because it was them saying goodbye to Winterfell. You know what I mean? And obviously the emotions, as Dan Weiss says in the behind the scenes, like the emotions were completely real. And I cried my fucking eyes out during the filming of that scene. And luckily, that's the emotion you were supposed to have. You know what I mean? And it's underrated in the kind of way of, not underrated, but it's like the underlying emotions in that scene are, the people don't connect to them. That, let's say, for example, you take any of the cast members right now. When's the last time? If you take Donald Faison and Zach Braff, they were in Scrubs together. They have a podcast together. They're best friends. If you take any other TV show and you go, well, remember that actor who really liked that, you know, those two guys and those two girls were like really close in the show and they're best friends. When's the last time they've seen each other? You know, so if you take like Theon, played by Alfie Allen, was in the show for 10 years and he's lying on that funeral pyre. Jorah Mormont, played by Ian Glenn, is on that pyre. He's been there for 10 years. When they leave, the rest of the cast are filming the show. Yeah, they'll see each other at an award ceremony, but it's an award ceremony. They're not hanging around and hanging out. They got 10 minutes. Oh, hey, you sitting over there? I'm sitting over by James Corden or whatever bullshit person they sit beside. It's like, so when Sansa says goodbye to Theon, that actress is literally saying goodbye to that actor. And she's crying for real. You know what I mean? So it's like, when will they see each other? Oh, maybe in LA in 5 years. But when you're watching the show, you're like, oh my God, she's really sad. It's like, yeah, because I assume she's really sad. And like when Jorah Mormont, who like Ian Glenn, I never worked with, I did one scene with him. I did some stand-in work for Rory McCann when they find them at the wall and he's inside the jail. I was lying down as Rory McCann for one of those scenes. So I seen him and I was like, oh my God, it's Jorah Mormont. Like I seen him physically. Oh shit, that means he doesn't have grayscale. You know, all these answers are being fed to me in a man passes me by in a corridor. But when he took the microphone to say goodbye for 10 years of Game of Thrones, I'm a mess. I don't even know that guy. But you know, we obviously working on the show 5 years, as I said I did. There's guys that worked 8 years and they didn't get a microphone to say goodbye. You know what I mean? So when given that opportunity, he fucking destroyed the house. You know what I mean? He like, because I'm now in his shoes feeling that, you know what I mean? So obviously that scene is like 15 minutes long and it's a funeral and then it cuts to the feast. So it's like sad. Oh, okay, we're back to, hey, we actually did kill, we survived. You know, it's a somber thing, but in that moment it was like we took a big massive group photo. The principal stills photographer Helen Sloan took the photo and it's everybody together and David Nutter and Dan Weiss and David Benioff are there and the assistants and I guess whoever was in the area at the time, but obviously all the extras. And we have a massive group photo of the final day of Winterfell. You know what I mean? So I have different aspects of that scene and different emotions when I watch that scene. And if I watched it now, I could cry. And they played they played music while the scene was on. And it was Barbara's Adagio for strings, the orchestral version. If I played that now to myself, I don't listen to it, but if I played it, I could go back to that moment and I could cry my fucking eyes out. You know what I mean? And you can hear my voice now that it's like cracking and shit. I can't control that because I keep going back there. You know what I mean? And it's a weird kind of thing. And like the emotion behind that episode is insane. And obviously it's that thing of the aftermath of doing all these days and doing all this work and then literally crying on television and then someone going, "Oh, I can't believe they shot the dragon. How did they know where the dragon was?" And I'm like, "But I cried," you know, like no one gives a shit, you know. And these are all the things that you have to kind of leave at the door, that you think you're important, but you're just a prop, a meat prop, you know. So it's just like that scene is forever my favorite thing to remember, because it was so many different things. And like there was a couple of people I worked with that I didn't know it was their last day, because we don't get each other's schedules. "Oh, are you in the 24th? Nah. When's your last day? Oh, today." Oh, you know what I mean? Where it was just like, "Oh, well, I guess I'll see you." You know what I mean? And then it's just like, you know, and then it's just like, "When are you in?" "Oh, I'm in 2 weeks from now." "Oh, cool. See you then." "Oh, that's been moved. Oh, it's cancelled." But my friends, I never got to see them. You know what I mean? So it was a weird kind of emotional, "Oh, okay, just in case this is the last day, let's all cry and go drinking later." You know what I mean? So there was a lot of emotions, like realistic emotions, during episode 4. And obviously it's the feature that I got, which is insane. So the best photo I ever have, ever, that will forever, you know, the footage itself is about 1.1 milliseconds, but at least it's there and it's sick looking. And that's the Lord of Bones' costume that I'm wearing. So it's just like, you know, I'll do I need to pay for it? Like, I want this like a fucking shirt in a glass jar on the wall. That's mine. Like, no, you know, because obviously it's a job to them, and they've got the next episode to do, and I'm leaving in episode, you know, 4 for the scene. So it's just like, no, you can't, you know. So it's just like, as much as you'd like to take Cap's shield home, you're not getting it.
Yeah,
Your answer is,
I keep the bat suit. So they had to pay like $500,000 for it.
Ben Affleck, right?
Yeah.
I know a guy who's got a sweet bat suit. He made it out of a 3D printer, and it looks insane. And he does Comic-Cons now, and he gets paid to show up. You know, so
dude, some cosplays are just better than the actual suits in movies. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a great answer, you know, to Aaron's question. Your emotional connection to episode 4. It's funny because I imagine a lot of people are listening thinking to themselves, that funeral did nothing for me because, you know, we didn't like the long night. But for you to work on it, you know, this is a sentiment that Kit Harington had as well. You know, when you're working on something, it's a lot easier to defend it. You're not going to see the faults in it because you know how much went into it. And we've always argued this too, that maybe season 8's not up to the standard of season 4 or season 3, but it's still quality television. There are still things happening in season 8 that we've never seen maybe in television or movies. The length of that battle, the CGI, the production value. So I think that's just a great answer, that you do have that the funeral, it's not only the funeral for those characters in the show, but it is the final goodbye to Winterfell. It's kind of wrapping things up for all you guys. So that was great to hear.
That's like infuriates me. I can only imagine it being someone who worked on it, like, when all people could talk about is a fucking coffee cup. And you're like, I just spent 55 straight days in, you know what I mean? Like, it's negative 17 degrees Celsius weather, and that's all you're gonna talk about is a fucking coffee cup.
Yeah. Well, there's a really interesting, there's a comedian called Tommy Tiernan, and he does a show where he doesn't know who's a guest on the show. And Liam Cunningham, who plays Davos, was on the show, and he said he loves living still in Ireland. He wouldn't, you know, he could go to LA if he wanted, but he loves living in Ireland because it grounds him, because people will be like, "You in Game of Thrones?" And be, yeah. So what? You know, like, people don't give a shit over here. You know what I mean? Right, so right. It's a nice thing to have, you know? But yeah, like, it's the whole kind of the controversy of the final season. It's so different. Like, it's like, yeah, I can find the faults in it, but I'm not going to go. It's fascinating to watch. You know, Game of Thrones posts a photo, and someone's like, you know, worst season ever, and they're like, "Why are you still following this account?" You know.
Well, there's a reoccurring tweet that you always see every few months, and it's the same tweet, copy and pasted, and it gets 10,000 retweets, 100,000 likes. It's that Game of Thrones, I've never seen a show leave the cultural conscience as quickly as Game of Thrones did. No one talks about it. No one mentions it. Meanwhile, you look at the streaming numbers, it was still the most watched show of 2020. And like you said, if they tweet out anything, if they tweeted out today, season 9, they get 1 million likes. All of a sudden, those same people that are always
no, they'd be like, you got to remake season 5 if you're making 9, and then someone's like, no, you got to remake season 6 if you're going to make it's like choose which one, what you wanted them to do. You want them to go back and do season 8 again, and then people are like, but what about season 7? They were already, the people who were angry about season 7 were pissed off about season 5. You know what I mean? They just grew in numbers. And like statistically, obviously being on the tour, I was expecting more. I was expecting less customers, No, but the people that came on the tour didn't complain. And I said to them, like, hey, if you want to fucking complain, I don't give a shit. It's past, you know what I mean? I'm getting paid to do this tour. I'm not getting paid to defend Game of Thrones or, agree with what you decided. But statistically, the IMDb numbers, episode 6 rated 4.7 out of 10. Disgusting. Episode 3, the worst rated battle episode of Game of Thrones, at 8 out of 10. It's the worst rated battle episode. But if you put that in the news, worst rated battle episode of Game of Thrones, people go, worst rated Game of Thrones. They don't read the whole thing. They don't go at 8 out of 10. It's still better than any battle in any other TV show. If you look on who voted on the IMDb votes, it's 100,000 people for season 1, 100,000 people for season 2, 100,000 people for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it's 400,000 people for season 8 put the votes in. And I'm like, so 300,000 people signed up to IMDb to say 0. There was nothing good about that. Let me just give my email away to Bill Gates, and then boom, 0. Take that. The Night King should have went to King's Landing. Steve, professional screenwriter with all the pieces in place. And I just say, and then they all died. And everyone goes, this man's a fucking genius, So it's interesting. And I love messing with people. I used to love getting someone who'd be like, oh man, they should have done that. Like, oh, cool. How would you have done it? Oh, I would have done it with that. Oh, like how Emergency Awesome described in a video for 45 minutes, how they should have done it. Yeah. Like, did you come up with that and then he stole it? Or did you just take his idea? This fully educated. Oh, nah, man. What about if these, and if what if Daenerys, I was just like, oh, it's cool, man. You're not a writer. I'm not a writer, but everyone's a military tactician after episode 3 of season 8. Everyone knows not to, not to put your horses in front of your fire throwing fucking trebuchets,
My only problem with that is like, I still don't understand why the fuck Ghost was there. There's literally nothing he can do.
Complete banter.
Right.
Yeah.
The backlash that we got on that review, you would think that, that somehow we were like, we're not military generals, guys. It is a fictional show. We're not here to critique the strategy of, the Dothraki when they lit up their fucking spears. It looked cool.
I think that's how it works.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm thinking of something. What if they all had flaming swords? It's fucking sick. Let's do that.
Let's do that. Yeah. Good way to bring back Melisandre. I think the logic for Thrones, with every show, you could poke holes in it. The logic for such a long time was very tight and strong. So I can understand that. But people just, like you said, to log on to IMDb and to give a show that took 2 years to produce a 0. It's the nature of the internet, but it still bothers me. It will always bother me.
Yeah. It's funny. Like, and obviously it doesn't affect. So let's say if you take someone, because I know a lot of people, like friends of mine or people on the internet I know through the internet, who watched seasons 1 to 8 in a vacuum. They weren't part of the 2.5 year wait and 2.5 year theorizing of what's about to happen. And they weren't a part of, oh, I hear this actor's and this guy, oh, there's leaked photos about this. So here's a leaked photo. So I'm going to base my whole season 8 on this photo. And if it doesn't come through, then I'm fucking trashing the place. You know what I mean? So it's just a fascinating thing. And like, I watch other shows now where I'm like, do you know the Big Bang Theory ended when season 8 of Game of Thrones ended as well? Exactly.
Oh, that I did not.
Because people were watching Game of Thrones, you know, and it's just like the new Friends, it ended. And we're like, how did it end? Probably happily, you know, or something. And then, yeah, how did it end? With a spin-off, like everything ends now, you know? And it's that thing of, I don't know what show is ending soon, but it's like, come on. Is it there was a recent thing in Ireland, the Line of Duty, which is a police cop drama thing, and that ended, and they're like, Line of Duty ending, basically like Game of Thrones. People are disappointed, you know, and it's just like, oh, all right, yeah, because you spent the last episode, it's like the WandaVision.
Yeah.
Paul Bettany, I'm gonna work with someone I never worked before in my life. I'm thinking, if James McAvoy or whoever, you know,
Daniel Day-Lewis.
If Daniel Day-Lewis comes in dressed like Abraham Lincoln, I'm gonna lose my mind, you know. So it's that thing of like, people have now been given so much opportunity to like theorize, and obviously everyone, you know, you guys have a YouTube channel, and everyone has a podcast nowadays, and you know, everyone can become a podcaster, and everyone can become a musician, everyone can become a voice on the internet, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's interesting that I'm curious if Game of Thrones ended 10 years ago, before, hey, did you see Game of Thrones? No, I never watched it. Don't, it's shit. Like, you know, people, oh man, wouldn't even bother. Don't even get started, because you're going to waste 10 years of your life. Like someone wasted 10 years of their life with a TV show. Like, you're not doing other things between now and 2011, where you're not like, I'm not going out tonight. Can't go to my wedding.
The best one is when people say something ruins their childhood, and I think to myself, did your childhood hinge on a fictional movie?
Mm-hmm.
Where it was so like, if that's ruined, then the childhood is just out the window.
Don't even think about remaking Pinocchio, because that'll ruin my childhood.
Right. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, well, you may have some other issues.
So I love learning languages as much as I don't actually learn them, which is good, because when I talk, suddenly my voice is like this, you know. So it's like I got this sweet, like, you know, like, so yeah. I just channel Khal Drogo.
Yeah,
that's it every time. Even when I cough now, I will like cough and go, you know, when they like, what is it, Black Panther or fucking Infinity War?
Oh yeah.
When all the Wakandans are shouting, that's me. When I cough, I shout and shit. You know.
Aaron, you had a couple questions?
I do have. I've been wondering though. I was kind of like seeing how like you were cast as the wildling and like Viking and everything. I always wonder like what if I was in an extra in Game of Thrones, what would I be?
So my friend actually got a job as the casting assistant for season 8.
Yeah.
And he literally, when we were on the tour, he was also a tour guide for a different company, and we would end up meeting in the same area, because it's a small kind of local area where some of the locations from the show are. And I'd be like, oh, hey, guys, if you want to know, like, this Facebook quiz, what kind of potato am I? This guy can tell you what he would have cast you in Game of Thrones. And obviously, if he calls you a Frey, means you're completely inbred. But, you know, he would just fuck with people, obviously. But, I mean, I don't know, I can't see how tanned you are with Zoom stuff, but, you know, you're talking, I don't know, Dothraki. How tall are you?
Ooh. Like 6'3".
Like 6'3", Dothraki. Boom.
No.
Season 8, Dothraki. What are you, 6'1"?
5'9" on a good day.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately.
I didn't even catch that, because I'm over here thinking, who would I be casting?
It's just really funny. I just recently seen a video of a girl singing American Boy with Kanye West and Estelle, and she's like, I just met this 5'7" guy and he's just my type. And people are like, wait, what? But back then it was fine. Before everyone started lying on their Tinder.
Now I know why Nash loves that song so much.
Yeah.
So it depends. Like the casting's a really funny kind of thing about the Dothrakis is you have to be a certain size, height wise. Obviously, you have to be a certain like ethnicity as well to obviously help the look. They can't just have a pasty Irish dude in the thing because all of a sudden, why wasn't he in the sun for the last 50 years of the culture? But it depends. You wouldn't stuck in everything. You know what I mean? It depends on what they needed. A veil knight.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, that's it. Too handsome for anything else.
Yeah,
and I remember
I was like 5'7", so I think I could be like a Stark.
You need a beard.
Throw it out.
Yeah, come on then.
Yeah, I'd be like one of those. I'd be one of the Frey sons.
One of the inbred Freys.
Yeah, just one of the idiot Frey sons in the background. Like Walter can't even remember my goddamn name this whole time.
And then you exactly just raging like can't even remember my goddamn name just in the corner. It's like, is somebody talking?
I've always fancied myself a Stark because I'm typical shorts in the winter, AC cranking in the summer. Just love the cold weather. And then you're like, you need a beard. I'm like, I'm out. Look at that.
No, you don't need a beard. You just need to look. I honestly, I don't know the parameters. I know for a fact with the wildlings, you need eyebrows, and I'm fucking packing these.
I got some brows. I can't be a Stark,
boys,
so
you know what I mean. So, and they would darken them, and they would give guys like unibrows and stuff, and immediately as so you're standing like that, and they make this even more harsher, more Neanderthalic, if that's a word. And then you get all this dark shit on your eyebrow, and then you go like, I gotta go on TV. You get rid of that.
This will work better. You could be a Lannister. How's that look?
You look like a soccer player who's just been signed.
All right. Looks like I'm jumping with the inbred phrase.
The Lannisters, it's you got to have the golden locks.
Not everyone in Casterly Rock, Lannisport, that area has blonde hair. I'm sure.
Right. Well, even in the show, Tyrion season 1's got the blonde hair, and then they're just like, get rid of that.
Yeah. Is that something? Because like I said to you guys in the last one, and obviously now it'll be exclusive news. I've never read the books of Game of Thrones. Would something like that affect you guys? Let's say Daenerys is supposed to have purple eyeballs.
She is, yeah.
And then you're like, oh, well, what the fuck? She doesn't even have purple eyes. This is bullshit. Or is it like, I would have liked if she had purple eyes.
Yeah.
Because that's how it's described in the book.
Well, I think for me too, watching before reading, it's like I've always, when I read, I pictured Daenerys as Emilia Clarke, and then pictured Tyrion as
So I guess that's the same that what I would do eventually. I'm an audio book kind of guy, and I know Roy Dotrice, the guy who played the Wildfire Maker. He's the guy that narrates the books. Unfortunately, I think he's passed away. But it's I think I just let him tell me. You know what I mean? But it's a thing of then behind the scenes of, hey, have you ever worn contact lenses?
Yeah, right. Especially colored ones.
But have you ever worn special effects ones? You know what I mean? So
I think they tried it, but it bothered Emilia Clarke's eyes, so they had to take them out.
Yeah, so it's just like, well, her eyes are definitely the priority over that guy reading the book. Not even purple.
Right.
In season,
in season 2, she's supposed to be bald because of her, walking out with the dragons. In the books, all her hair is burned off at the end of season 1. So, but people still complain about those things to this day. They're just trolling at this point. You have to imagine.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you say that. Like with David Benioff and Dan Weiss, they would fuck around in the script with what's about to happen. They would send fake scripts to people, and they told Jon Snow, when the undead white gets brought into Castle Black and it comes back to life and he throws the fire at him. In the script, it says Jon Snow's face is now burned and disfigured and loses half of his hair. And then in brackets, it would say Kit Harington needs prosthetics for the rest of season 2. And he'd be like, what? And I'm like, oh, we're just fucking with you. But like, they wouldn't tell him until the end of the day. You know what I mean? Every season, Sophie Turner received a script that said that she died. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's just the way they wrote the scripts. And I think it's like the way if you guys wrote a script for each other, you wouldn't write it like day one, scene one. No. You'd be like, okay, Aaron, this is what we're doing. This is what you're saying. You know what I mean? And that's how the scripts are written, in a kind of friendly way of like, Battle of the Bastards has the charge of the horses. Jon is charging for Rickon. Everyone's charging. All this sort of stuff happens. And then brackets, horsey stuff. And then the next, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's written like, oh, we know that the horse stunt coordinator is going to do all that stuff. There's no point of putting horse then falls, cut to man getting head cut off. They're like, nah, cool shit. Game of Thrones, cool shit. Next thing, okay, the actual script. And that sort of stuff, you know. So it's really funny that they would like some of the choices they made. Obviously, you know, Daenerys being bald, I would happily have seen that. But then obviously the iconic Targaryen hair, which I think became iconic for the show. It's like, oh, we can't get rid of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. It's like the purple context. They tried it. Doesn't really work in live action. Bothers the actors. We're not going to do it. To me, that's I appreciate that they attempted it. There are certain things like magic things that don't happen in the show that you could be frustrated by, but there are certain things that just don't translate well in live action.
War elephants.
Yeah. Oh.
He did it. He opened them. He opened Pandora's box.
That's a wound.
You get an elephant on TV and you see how fast that show gets cancelled, you know.
Right. Well, I like the way they worked around that. That was one of the funniest memes of season 8, man. The Cersei complaining about not having elephants.
That's what I miss.
Oh, dude, the memes.
That's what I miss.
Those first 2 weeks were the most pleasant time I've ever had on the internet.
There's times in the world, let's say it's a bad time now, kind of a good time, kind of a bad time, definitely a bad time, Jesus.
Yeah.
When Pokemon came out, the world was the happiest place in the world.
I've never seen anything like that.
And then the first 2 weeks of memes from Game of Thrones. Everything else, useless. Throw it in the bin.
Dude, that is such a good point. That Pokemon Go summer, that shit was like a fucking phenomenon.
You go to the park and everyone would just be doing the same thing, trying to find Pokemon.
The location of Walder Frey's twins is also a Pokemon gym, just in case there's any Pokemon people still that play that game that want to go on the Game of Thrones tour. Boom.
Oh, the twins are in Ireland?
Yes.
Cool. Man, we really need to Nerd Soup goes to Ireland.
Yeah.
We'll vlog it.
Get that, what's that thing called? Crowdfund. You know, just crowdfund a trip to the boys for the boys.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
that's our Patreon level.
Yeah, pay for our Ireland trip, and we'll send you photos.
So where are you guys? Long
Island, New York.
Long Island, New York. Yeah, it's like 300 euros to get here.
Oh yeah, it's probably.
But then multiply that by all the mimosas Nash wants.
Once things clears up and everything's cool, good to go, we definitely got a out there.
Oh yeah, Ireland's second on my list behind Tokyo, but probably more feasible is going to Ireland.
I mean, if you guys do plan it, obviously, I'll be your tour guide for Game of Thrones and other TV and film. You can vlog. You can do vlog shit.
Hell yeah.
You know.
No, that would be a great, like, just to, like you said, just to document it, you know. And monetize it,
because I think the tours, exactly. The tours itself, I think, are starting back in August, but obviously they'll be starting back restricted. It'll be the same locations as it was previously. It's like season 1, season 2, season 3 locations. But at the end of this year, the sets that they used for season 8 will be open. So instead of me taking people to the original Winterfell from the first series, I will take people to the Winterfell that you guys seen in the last battle. And it's a fully built
Rohan. Yeah, that's Winterfell on steroids.
Yeah, and then you get to go, I think it's still there. Obviously, I haven't been to the north in a long time. But in Belfast city centre, across from Titanic Studios, they have built the King's Landing that Daenerys destroyed. And I assume because it's destroyed, but it's also fixed, they will have like Disney, where it's like one day it'll be on fire and one day it won't be on fire. So it's a kind of, it'll be different every time you go. There will be a museum to visit as well on the tours. And then they will also have Castle Black open for you guys to go and visit as well. So
Awesome.
I think the idea was to turn Castle Black into a paintball arena. And that idea came from Christoph Hivju, I think. So yeah, it'll be open at the end of this year, hopefully, if everything goes according to plan. And it'll be really good to have new things to show people. You know what I mean? And then the old people who came on the tour years ago can now come back with new stuff. And obviously the show is done now, so I can talk about everything. The stuff that I refrained from telling people in 2016, I can now go, actually, I was lying to you guys the whole day. Jon Snow is alive. You know what I mean? So
awesome. Yeah, we definitely got to set that up. That'd be a hell of a trip.
Do you have any more questions, Aaron?
No, I'm ready. You got anything?
Yeah, we had this final one. Before we wrap things up, this question here from Dahlia, Dark Kitty Art. How would you say Game of Thrones has impacted your life, your career, and also the fantastic people you've met?
It's literally is it the linchpin? Is that the correct term to use? It is, everything revolves around Game of Thrones in my life now. Since 2014, everything I've done has been related to Game of Thrones at some point, which is weird, but it always goes back to that sort of thing. So I quit my job to do some background extra work on Game of Thrones, my normal safe job, doing season 5, doing season 6, obviously meeting my friends who are, because we went through all that shit, are better friends than other friends that I would have, you know, that kind of thing. Like, then doing season 8, obviously the scale of that, and been given. So as I went from season 5, just a background extra, season 6, background extra, but with a bit of more kind of camera time, if you will, or opportunities to be more physically seen on camera, which without any training or knowing what I'm doing or never doing this type of work before, I'm learning on the job every day. I'm like, what does he do when this happens? I'm going to see if I can do that too. You know what I mean? Sort of learning on the job and hoping not to go, what the fuck are you doing back there? You know what I mean? So then season 7, I got a message saying, hey, do you want to die or do you want to be in season 8? And I said, I want to be in season 8. So I was alive. So I did episode 1 of season 7. I didn't go any further because obviously the frozen lake, they killed everyone except for the people who get the paychecks, who talk. And I was never going, I would have been eaten by that polar bear, I imagine, at some point. And then I did season 8, and in season 8, then obviously doing the tours in between this time, it's a Game of Thrones tour. I work on Game of Thrones. You know what I mean? It's literally everything.
Right.
And then all the kind of, so it's completely impacted everything. You know what I mean? And now with that as a platform, I guess, like obviously Vikings helped the most because it started it. Using Game of Thrones, it's certain things, like literally before this podcast, there was an advertisement for an alcohol brand for a commercial, and I don't have a self-tape. I don't have a show reel. I don't have a spotlight. But if I send the right kind of email with the right accompanying photographs, they might go, hey, wait, this guy's got an interesting story instead of interesting career. You know what I mean? So it does help. And there's certain situations where someone will go, oh yeah, we're going to do a couple of night shoots. And I'm like, oh, have you ever done a night shoot before? And I'm like, yeah, I done fucking like 35 of them in a row for Game of Thrones. And they'll be like, holy shit, no way, you're one of those guys. You know what I mean?
You're overqualified.
Yeah, so it's changed everything. And right now, like, I'm a struggling actor, you know, because of Game of Thrones. But it's good because without it, I wouldn't have, you know, when you're in front of a camera and the other side of that camera is the audience of Game of Thrones, which is up to 1 billion people across multiple platforms. that's the pressure you need to learn how to do your job much quicker. You know what I mean? If it was just some straight to DVD thing that no one gave a shit about, I'd be lazy with things. But because it was the show that I really liked, I'm going to get up and I'm going to be in work 2 hours earlier than everybody else because I'm pumped. Hey, do you want to take a break? No. I'm going to fuel myself with energy drink and I'm going to be available for you at every single moment. You know what I mean?
Oh, so it was you with the coffee.
No,
that was your
of course
coffee
it wasn't.
cup.
No, it was Amelia Clark's coffee cup. There you go. Spoiler alert. And it wasn't a Starbucks. That's it. That's the thing that infuriates me the most about the show is people thinking it's a Starbucks cup, or people who've never seen the show going, "Oh yeah, that's the thing with the Starbucks cup." And I'm like, "That's the thing. That's the
all
thing
my
you think
brother-in-law
about?"
talks about.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law tried to get into it, didn't like it, and
So
all he does is criticize the show for having the cup in it.
Winter Soldier and Falcon, the TV series, go and watch the first episode. After he gets his little Red Wing, is that what it's called?
Mhm.
Gets a little bit messed around and he's fixing it in that cafe. First scene with crowd, there's a guy wearing a mask in the background. Boom.
Wow.
Where's my meme now? Huh? Marvel?
Right.
You know? But because it was Game of Thrones and because it became such a meme of like, holy shit. And then somebody obviously writing Daenerys' big long name on a Starbucks cup and people changing it to a Starbucks cup. It's like, did you notice the first time around? No, but it was on the internet forever afterwards. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean that's definitely got to be a different like you were talking about, just being so passionate about it, just wanting to give your best, giving you that extra motivation, not take breaks, just keep going at it. I mean,
yeah.
it's
Well, I
kinda
learned
stupid.
my lesson.
Yeah.
I learned my lesson in season 6. We were doing the Battle of the Bastards and I was really hungry. And I was like, I'm going to just go eat lunch. And like, hey, we need 5 volunteers. I'm like, fuck off. Just eating my slop on the side of a hill. And then the 5 volunteers were Tormund's men who dragged Tormund from the wall of shields after he gets cut. And then other cool shit happens. And I was like, oh, I vowed not to ever say no again. And then literally as we break into Winterfell, there was 65 extras there. One extra had actually flown in from Germany to be in Game of Thrones, and he just lied to get there. He had a fake address in England or in Northern Ireland, and just got off college, and then was like, "Yeah, no, I live around the corner." And then they said, "Hey, can you come in next week?" You know, but he did it, and like, fair play to him. There's a guy on Vikings who has all the cast of the Vikings tattooed on his arm, and he's from Czech Republic, and he works on his favorite show. You know what I mean? So people will do whatever they can to be wherever they want. You know. So 60 people on the set, 60 wildlings, Starks, and all that sort of conglomerates of the ally forces that are beating the Boltons. And Miguel Sapochnik comes out and goes, "Everyone on this side of the camera, go away. You're wrapped. You're not in the scene. You've all been crushed to death. We only need about 10 people." Luckily, I was one of the 10 still there. And he goes, "We need 3 volunteers." I'm going, boom, me, please. And then my best mate, Will, him too. He's also going in this. So they took 4 of us and they said, right, these guys need to be the bloodiest, muddiest. They've been through the worst shit ever. So the makeup artist, the hair department, the costume, they're beating the shit out of us. Like the worst kind of Jon's makeup in Battle of the Bastards on top of us, everything crap in our hair. They ran out of costume mud. So they're like, "Do you guys want to just lay on the ground?" We were kicking horse piss and shit at each other just because we were like, oh my God, we've been chosen by the director to do something cool. They've just caught Ramsay Bolton. Hopefully it's us fucking kicking the shit out of him or him murdering. You know, there's something big about to happen and we're getting prepared for it. We're getting cast treatment of hair and makeup and everyone's checking like, oh man, they're making, and we go back in and he'd go, "This guy's hair is perfect, but his face needs to be bloodier. Jesus, more, but just fuck it at him." And we go back out and we get redone, more makeup, more hair, more shit, more going on. And we go back in and it's getting a little bit late in the day. And Miguel Sapochnik calls the crew and extras and everyone in and goes, "Okay, guys, you see these 4 people? This is how everyone should look tomorrow. That's a wrap." And I was like, "What?
Are you kidding?
Sorry? You mean we were just used as examples and that was it? And now we got to watch the shit and piss off our faces thinking we were going to be
He's
the
a cheeky
main guys
bastard,
who,
huh?
like, you know, cut Ramsay throat. The man's a genius,
Yeah.
but it was that thing. And there's a couple of veterans I work with who say never volunteer for anything. So it's the balance of volunteer, but don't volunteer, because it could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing, you know? So being tall, yeah, oh, big man, you're big. Come and carry this. I'm like, no, I'm just tall. I'm not strong. I'm not strong, man. I'm tall, man, you know? But it's just like, he would do so much things, like we were doing a battle and he would delay the food, because the angrier we get, the angrier we come across on screen. It's a genius move. Obviously, at the time, I'm going to murder everyone for a sandwich. If they say, hey, if you can run 700 yards and beat the shit out of that Bolton, I'll give you a Snickers. I'm going to be like Captain America and Black Panther fucking running. I'm going to be the fastest kid alive. And the guy behind me is going, he's the fastest kid alive. Super bad reference. And then I'm going to go. And when I kill that man, I'm going to eat a sandwich and then I'll be fine, you know? It's just so fascinating. Like, he would do all this stuff and it's so good. At the time, worst feeling in the world. But as soon as you realize that's what he's done, it's like, oh shit. Like, he kept the Boltons, he kept the good guys and the bad guys completely separate. We never met each other until we were on the battlefield. So then it becomes like two rivals, and then the army advisor would be like, those Boltons over there saying, you guys are pussies. And we're like, they're saying what? You know? And obviously the Boltons are, you know, people with normal haircuts and normal jobs. And the wildlings are fucking lunatics. These are people who aren't medically cleared to work in a normal job. So there's a whole gang of everyone who looks like me, missing eyes and missing teeth, and they, you know, use cocaine recreationally and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And there would be like, you know, rumors like, oh my God, you know, I think the wildlings are out of it. And the Boltons be like, what? You know, the kind of like the fear you see in a real war. Like, you know, the Vikings used to do what? Oh, I'm not fighting them. You know what I mean? It became a legit kind of rumor mill of like, yeah, man, they're all hammered. And one guy said he's going to beat the fuck out of somebody. And you're like, well, it's not going to be me. I'm not going in there first, you know? So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, these are the
Good
insights.
times. Best job I ever had. The scene from Fury, you know, when I always talk about the people on the tour, and it's like, it was the hardest thing ever and the shittiest days of weather. And it was, you know, sometimes when it's like you haven't slept, you've only slept for 3 hours, and then you haven't slept for the next 18, and then you got to do this and do that. And hey, we got to run all day today. I hope you guys are well rested, and your leg is fucking swelling up and you got shin splints and you got a twisted ankle, but you know, because you're replaceable, if you say I'm injured, the next person at the door is coming right in and taking your job. So people were running on injuries, illnesses, everything, because they didn't want to miss being in the show. You know what I mean? So that's what people do. We would, you know, legitimately, as I said to people, I would watch season 8 in a wheelchair because of the pain I'm in right now while filming season 8. You know, I got electrocuted. I like definitely tore everything around my kneecaps. I had a thing called policeman's foot, where you shatter your heel from too much, you know, impact on it. I had, like, you know, all this different things, but like, you watch that show, I'm the fastest kid alive, you know. I'm the guy, I'm first to work and I'm last out, you know. So it's just like, and your body is like, you're fine. And then as soon as they call wrap on the last day, I got the flu for like 12 days. Like, boom, just like, please stop going. Please stop. Please have 8 hours sleep. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you just crash.
It's interesting.
Well, I think that was the perfect way to wrap it up, Eric. And you know, just to say thank you again for joining us for the second time. Hopefully this one sees the light of day. I know our listeners out there are really probably enjoying this conversation. Me and Aaron, we're both fans, obviously, of the show and the work that you've done on the show. So it was a real pleasure to be able to finally unmask Bo Oliver the Cricket and Aaron the Nerd Suit Monkey for our first interview. And like I said, thanks, man, for joining us. Thanks for all the work that you've done. And hopefully, well, we will have you back without a doubt, because
yeah, I'm gonna go and try and be a real actor so I can do a real thing.
Right.
and you'll have like cards with questions, and you'll ask me,
Yeah, James Lipton style inside the actor studio. But even, just to talk, we'd love to have you back to do, a part 2 where you can get more.
I mean, whatever I can legally say, I'll just keep going on this podcast. It's like you want to watch the behind the scenes of a man become the best actor on the planet, or the worst actor in the best production in the planet. That's more like it, the second one.
Well, in 15 years, when you're accepting your best actor trophy for Aaron's Oscar-winning script, in which I am a producer, we'll look back on this interview and say, that's where these kids got started.
See, this is the thing. He's got to come to Ireland for inspiration.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember sitting on the fields of Connemara,
Glass of Jameson or something.
Or your nice journal.
He needs a journal.
Definitely. And I mean, Aaron, any last thoughts? I usually throw it to you at the end of a pod for.
No, just you said thank you for coming on. I mean, definitely got to do a part 2 because I feel like there's still so much more we can get into. But I'm sure, people watching, listening at home, send us some questions in the comments and everything for part 2 because, when it comes to Game of Thrones, there's so much you can get to and probably so much we miss. And part 2, if we could do a part 2, that'd be awesome. So yeah, thanks again. This was awesome.
Of course.
Yeah,
of course. It's not a problem. And obviously, like for me, when I obviously the tours have been gone for since March last year. It was nice to always have that, not closure, but it always is nice to talk about the show because there's many people that won't get the chance to tell their story about their time on one of the best shows ever made. So doing this, it's like, oh no, I remember that story, and oh, there's that story, you know what I mean? So it's just like, there'll be a part 20. Obviously, it'll be beaten to the ground, unless this gets amazing views, then I'm sure I'll be back on fucking Wednesday. He's back. We'll just put Spider-Man in the thumbnail. He's going to talk about how many Tobey Maguires are in the next one. But yeah, it's obviously amazing. And I'm being a fan of you guys and listening to your podcast way before I, ever had a chance of talking to you. And now seeing your faces is weird. And obviously the first podcast we did, the first second was me going, I can hear voices, but I don't know which face to put the voice to, so
right.
Should avoid the mask, make it easier.
Yeah, exactly. But
this time I wore blue.
So it's that thing of I listen to all your videos and all your podcasts, and so especially for shows that I watch. If I don't watch the show, I don't watch the video because I don't want the show being ruined on me. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to listen to my episode. It's that kind of, like I said to you, imposter syndrome. Where you describe me as an actor, and I'm like, oh, am I though? Not yet. Maybe in November of 2021. We'll see. Unless I get recast.
I was talking to Aaron,
and I'm the original Daenerys.
Yeah, right. And then it's Hemsworth comes and takes your dual roles. That should have been me.
That's why I need to get Hemsworth triceps.
I was talking to Aaron.
That's the goal.
Last week, saying, it's funny messaging Eric because I'm such a fan of what you have going on in your life and the things that we discuss, and then sometimes you give off the impression of truly being a fan of our podcast, and I'm like to Aaron, it's like, I think this guy genuinely likes us. He just likes listening to us. It always surprises me.
I remember I leave some questions for the pod. They ain't never read out. So fuck you guys.
Yeah, we get that a lot.
We get the question, so
yeah, that's all right.
Next time we go for Instagram.
It's nice. No, I'm not doing it anymore. You've lost your chance. I'm too big for you now. No.
Wow.
It'll just be me on fake accounts asking, hey, is that guy coming back?
What happened to Eric? I feel like he's too big time for you now. Definitely not Eric. And like I said, man, thank you again for joining us for this. And for everybody out there listening, thank you for watching. All the standard stuff. Like it, share it. Don't get too used to seeing my face. And for Aaron and Eric, we'll see you next time.
So this is the first time you guys have shown your face. Oh, you're not cutting out now.
Oh, yeah.
How do you feel about showing your face?
I have like on Instagram and stuff, Twitter. Not on the channel though.
Because before this interview, the one I did a few weeks back, you guys are the two guys from, you guys are the five guys, and Marissa, is it?
Yes.
You guys are Daft Punk of the podcast. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just like, now you've revealed you've taken off your French electronics helmet. Like, is it something that you're going to do in the future, or are you back to your smooth voiceovers?
Well, we actually,
what it is.
in the works, we have something in the works right now, which will feature Andres and Manny, who have been on the channel before, obviously in speaking roles. Manny's the turtle. Andres is the marshmallow. Everyone confuses him with the toilet roll of paper. We are planning to eventually start our a live podcast. Okay. So they'll stream on Discord. It will also stream to YouTube and probably Twitch. It's going to be a video game focused podcast, so we won't be on it as much. But when they have news to talk about that I can also talk about, I'll definitely be appearing on that. I like the idea of video podcasts, We were never too against it, but it never kind of seemed necessary because of us using our animated avatars. And, for people who probably don't remember this, that for the first, say like 8 or 9 months, we didn't do podcasts. It was only the Game of Thrones stuff. We didn't do weekly podcasts. Aaron did like solo podcasts for a little bit. It was weird. But now it's become like a staple of the channel. So definitely when you come back, we will be doing some more video, more video pods.
We can do one. I can sit down in New York. I'll come over.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
Live from New York, Saturday night.
It's nerd soup. That's the thing. We would also like to extend, if you're ever in New York.
Yeah, definitely.
Have a place you have some people to show you around. We'll get lost in the city together.
Well, I was thinking too, like when he was talking about the the behind the scenes stuff, I thought like that would be like a great idea for a show. Just like
like the life of an extra.
So it's obviously the documentary of Game of Thrones did the initial part of it, and obviously
like a comedy type sitcom type, like just extra.
Yeah, I could definitely see Ricky Gervais doing a show like that on HBO.
I think that'd be funny.
He doesn't know, right?
No, I don't think he knows.
Amazing.
There's an HBO show, Aaron. It's called Extras.
Really?
And it couldn't be more true. Like, it is absolutely
a lot of famous cameos.
Gospel. It's unbelievable how realistic it is. And when we were filming Thrones, we had our own little apartment that we shared between a few people. And I would always leave Netflix on, and I would always leave Extras on in case people hadn't seen it, because you meet the same type of person every time. There's always a guy who's the name dropper, and obviously depending on where you are and what production you are, this person, just finished working off with there yesterday. I'm like, that's cool. No, because him and his brother, he knows me, and I'm like, all right, I wasn't listening the first time, like I just kind of, but it's Extras is hilarious. Obviously watch Vikings first,
yeah.
And because they have a spin-off coming for Netflix, so you'll have a, in a YouTube sense of things, you could run Vikings into the spin-off,
Oh yeah.
I'm interested for the monetization side of this conversation,
Yeah, that's what I'm most excited for, is that there's going to be no copyrights on this.
Oh yeah.
It's just our mugs.
HBO gets wind of it and takes it down.
Yeah, your Stark flag in the background. Boom, you've ruined it.
Starker's okay. It's when I run into Lannister. That's where they draw the line.
The guy behind YouTube, like, fucking Lannister. Get what you deserve.
Back feels all the time.
But yeah, no, thanks for having me on the show, or the pod, or the video show. And it's weird to see Bo's face. And that is me and all the other internet users of this channel. It's a lovely face. You shouldn't have hid it. Beautiful face. A beard would look really good. Beards are makeup for men. Questions like, how long have I had it? I don't remember. What's the worst thing about having a beard? The questions. You know, and that's about it. But you know, seriously, it was like a pleasure to be on this show, and I will be back, and I will try my hardest to become something that
We will
when
too.
someone and as I said to you, so like my Instagram is Eric Anthony Nolan, and it used to be something else that people would never get. And I was like, I got to change it to just, obviously I can't take Eric Nolan because he's a famous kung fu man, as far as I know. So John David Washington is the reason I have put my middle name in my Instagram handle, because John David Washington, everything I know about actors is you need to have a cool name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I think of my name in a credit, I'm going, ugh. But when I think of John David Washington, I'm like, oh, yo, John David Washington, this, you know, like every stunt performer has a double-barreled name, or it's like the cast call for fucking Power Rangers in the 90s. Everyone's called, you know, just really interesting names. So I thought that to just add the extra bit in my Instagram handle, no reason. It's not my stage name. I don't even know if I, you know, and when you go to acting websites, they ask what your stage name is, and it has to be on IMDb. Like, that's it. You can't change it anymore, you know? So I don't know what to do. I need a cool one name, or a cool triple-barreled name like John David Washington. John David Washington, if you're listening, what my name should be, please.
They need to create like an algorithm. It's find your acting name, like find your rapper name,
like Post Malone.
Right, yeah, or Childish Gambino.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, like Donald Glover was always going to be the best person on the planet. So
right.
It's funny. Like now is a weird time because it's like, hey, I've got this show and I did some really cool things recently, but I can't talk about them until the hype is completely gone. You know what I mean? So I'm never a good guest for, oh, what do you think about the new Marvel show? I'm like, well, I already know that this person's going to die. I found out 9 months ago. You know what I mean? Is that my answer, sort of thing? Where it's just like, I'll never be a good guest on a live interaction thing, you know? It'll always be, hey, a year from now, what was it like to work with that person? You know what I mean? So it's funny I'm always like, oh, I'd love to be on that, but I can't because I wouldn't be able to control myself. But going, like, as I said to you guys, when I'd be on the tour, I would leave cryptic little messages for people. And like my friend's father, who would sell merchandise in certain areas, he's a painter, and he would paint things kind of that were spoilerish, but they weren't official spoilers because you don't have the other 8 pieces of why this is painted. You know what I mean? So it's just really funny to try and hold. I got some secrets, you know, I got some stuff going on in my brain that I'll tell you in 2022, maybe.
Well, keep that free. Keep those dates free.
And then cut this bit out of the pod. And put it in the pod in 2022.
Right. Yeah.
Like, here it is. And they're like, oh, what? We waited a year for that? It's just as disappointing as Game of Thrones was.
Yeah, make sure that we'll get you on when House of the Dragon is done with season 1. We'll get you on to.
And if I'm not on the pod, it means I'm on the show.
Oh.
Boom.
I'm going to assume everything you don't talk about you're on. So like Lord of the Rings, Mandalorian.
I wish.
Doctor Strange.
I wish.
Sopranos spinoff.
Well, the crew of Game of Thrones shot the part of the Sopranos movie. Is there a movie?
Yeah, they're doing a
Prequel.
Yeah. So I think part of the crew from Game of Thrones did the Sopranos. So there's always they are the best crew in the television. So why wouldn't they spread to the best projects, you know? So
yeah, you don't even realize that. Yeah, Sopranos is HBO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
totally forget about that sometimes. All right, guys, and like I said, you can share this, like it, subscribe, and we will be back for more Nerd Soup content next week, and with Eric hopefully very soon. So for Bo, Aaron, and Eric, see ya.
Cool.
I don't know how to do video endings.
Yeah, that's tough.
How do we say bye?
Like,
now what do I do?
But I'm letting you're see ya. Wait, don't. There could be absolute banter now.